Good evening, good folks, and welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission General Session for this Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. Before we get on with business of our meeting tonight, I do want to remind folks that we do have public comment periods. There's a public comment period toward the beginning of the meeting on any agenda items. So if there's something that you wish to speak on before we deliberate and vote on, that's your opportunity. We also have public comment at the end of the meeting on anything you wish to speak and share with the City Commission. Note, during public comment is a time for you to share your thoughts and perspective with the Commission. There's not necessarily a time for back and forth dialogue or Q&A. We can have that at another time. We do encourage you to complete the public comment form at the back of the room and provide your name and home address. No, I will not be sharing your home address publicly, nor will I be asking you to announce your home address. That is for our internal records. There will also be public phone-in comments. So if you are watching at home or wherever via Facebook, Comcast Channel 96, or our YouTube channel, there will be an opportunity for you to phone in and give your comment. Phone-in comments are also up to 3 minutes, same as in person. All right, we're going to get started with prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to be led in prayer by Dr. Rob Renberg, pastor at Anchor Point Bible Church. If you wish to join us in prayer and or the Pledge of Allegiance, I ask that you can stand and remove any caps if you're so capable of standing. Thank you.
And I am fine with giving you my address, 635 Seminole Road. So just thought I'd throw that in there. Thank you. Let's pray. Lord of all, maker of all, creator of all that is good, we thank you for this evening, for all those who have come out tonight, for those who are giving of their time and their efforts to lead this city. We pray for wisdom for them and for each who will be speaking and sharing what is on their heart and mind. We do pray, Father, for peace and goodwill, and ask, Lord, whether it is here or around the world, might your peace rule. And so, Father, thank you for this time, and we just commit this to you now in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Gorman?
Here.
Commissioner Cochin?
Here.
Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Here.
Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Here.
Commissioner Keener? Absent. Commissioner German?
Here.
Thank you. First up, we have honors, awards, and presentations, and we have the State Historic Preservation Office with Muskegon County Civil Rights Historic Survey Project. Welcome. If the two of you would kindly introduce yourselves.
Jamie Pesh. I'm a planner with the City of Muskegon.
My name is Katie Kolakithis. I'm the survey coordinator at the Michigan SHPO.
Good evening and welcome.
So this is a short presentation on a African American Civil Rights Resource Historic Survey for Muskegon County. There are a number of sites that were identified in the City of Muskegon. This effort began with a National Park Service grant starting back in 2020. So it's been a lot of work, but the final product is here. I passed out a few of the printed copies for you all to look through, and this will just touch on some of the high points and what the purpose of survey is.
So, like I said, my name is Katie. I am the survey coordinator for the Michigan State Historic Preservation Office, or SHPO, as you'll hear us call. Every state is charged with having a survey program. And we are charged, my job in particular, is charged with identifying historic resources around the entire state. So we were able to apply for a National Park Service grant through their African American Civil Rights Grant Program. This was our second. Now we're up to 9, I think. So this was our second grant that we applied for. We had done a very large survey in Detroit prior to that started in 2016. So the week before the pandemic, we got notified that we had received this Park Service grant, and then everything changed a little bit. But we were able to eventually hire a contractor, Firefly Preservation Consulting, which is a Michigan-based company, and they were able to kind of very slowly over the last 4 years complete that work. They did create an advisory board or advisory committee, And they worked with that group quite extensively throughout the last 4 years. One of the questions that I get asked all the time when we talk about this is, why did we want to look at Muskegon County? Muskegon has not had an architectural survey since the 1970s, and most, if not all, of the resources that we have identified in our records relate to the lumber industry. So we wanted to try to broaden, what we know and what you all know about the city's historic resources, and hopefully kickstart more and more work in the future. So this was, Jamie asked me to give you a list of who was on that commission that kind of helped us. And so this was a list of all the folks that participated and it helped. It was a very broad group of folks, and they were very, very helpful in helping our contractor identify places. And this is certainly not a complete list. I know there are places out there that didn't make it in there. It's just what we were able to get identified. And obviously there's a number of sites in the survey that are extremely important in terms of the history, but that are no longer physically standing. The SHPO's main kind of bread and butter is the built environment, so things that are still standing. So you'll see it discussed in the report I think she's got a list of maybe 60 or 70 resources that are no longer standing, but what we concentrate on are the things that are standing. So here's the map of the resources that we were able to identify in the city of Muskegon. There are also maps in that report for Muskegon Heights and Norton Shores. I did flag on those copies of the reports. The first little blue tab is the maps. So I'm just going to run through a couple of options. This is not all of them because of time, but there were 56 individual places identified for the survey that were still standing. They're primarily in Muskegon, Muskegon Heights, and Norton Shores. They include parks, churches, schools, residential homes, commercial buildings, kind of the whole gamut of different types of buildings. One of the most interesting stories I think that we were able to kind of help tell is that of the Jackson Hill neighborhood, and this is definitely one where we would love to see the city come and do some additional survey work. We'll be talking to Jamie about that as well. And then there was quite a bit that our contractor was able to find about local civil rights activities, including the Sanitary Dairy Company, which is still standing. We were able to enjoy some delicious baked goods while we were doing some survey work there. But that was the site of one of the first boycotts in Muskegon County. Just another contributor. This one is the New Hope Baptist Church. It's a contributing resource in that Jackson Hill potential historic district that was identified in the survey. So what would be the other piece of this was that we worked with the school district to kind of add to the I'm going to blank on what they're called, the toolkits that are available at the Lakeshore Museum for teachers and anyone else that wants to use them about civil rights. And so they were able to add some additional kind of built environment to those toolkits. So there is a section in the report that has some curriculum built into it. So next steps would be future surveys. We would love to see Muskegon utilize the certified local government grants that we have available to you all, because you are a certified local government, to do some additional survey. Additional National Register designations, which are an honorary designation that come through our office, and that those can open up access to tax credits and grants. It also helps all of us make better decisions, especially when we're talking about federally funded projects. One of the goals of this civil rights grant program that the Park Service has is that it allows the SHPO and municipalities and federal agencies to make better decisions and more equitable decisions when we are looking at a project's impact on historic resources. So does anyone, I guess, are there any questions about historic resource survey that I can answer? It's the kind of the foundation of all of our preservation activities, and Muskegon became a CLG in right around the same time that we applied for the grant. And certified local governments are the only communities in our state that we have funding to give out. We're required to pass through 10% of our federal allocation to CLGs every year. And you do have one, you've got one in 23 so you've already gotten some of that grant money, but it's an annual program, and we really encourage communities to apply for survey grants as well. So.
any questions, but I encourage you all to look through this report. It's very interesting information. It builds on going all the way back to the Mayor's Institute on City Design report that we did for Jackson Hill, called out identifying sites of historic significance. There's a lot of overlap between the recommendations of that report and the information that's contained in this report. And I look forward with the Historic District Commission to looking into this in more detail. As Katie mentioned, there's been a lot of focus on the lumbering era in the city of Muskegon, some of the industry in the city of Muskegon, but the story of African Americans and civil rights in this community is hand in hand with the industry that used to exist in this city. Not so much today, but it's a vital component. The entire report is online for anybody watching at home or anybody in the audience today. That was added recently, so.
Today.
Yeah, today. I believe there is a link in the commission packet to that website, and there's also, I don't know.
Yeah, if you go to, anybody that searches michigan.gov/SHPO, we have a program, there's a section for programs, and the program that we have kind of developed with all of our grant programs is called Telling Michigan's Full Story. And there are projects so far we've done projects in Detroit, Inkster, Muskegon, and then we have one ongoing in Niles right now. And so those are the four like main locations that we've done grants on, and then there've been additional kind of spin-off in Detroit where they've the city of Detroit has gotten, I think, 9 Park Service grants. Maybe that's too many. Maybe they're at 6 to do additional work. We've gotten additional grants to do designations for buildings that were identified in that original 2016 survey. So we hope that this kind of helps spur additional development and additional designations. So.
Absolutely, thank you. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, and this is greatly appreciated. I'll be remiss if I did not comment on the work that you've done and the history that Muskegon has when it comes to civil rights and African Americans. Looking at some of the landmarks, like the New Hope Church, the Mount Zion's Church, the John Wesley Church. As a young boy, I attended a lot of those churches and knew the pastors. So I am a product here of Muskegon and due to the movement of the civil rights movement, which was passed in 1964, and the Voting Rights Act, I believe, in 1965. All of this history that now is at the hands of citizens and then our youth, because it's not often told in our public schools. And to see this, I'm really ecstatic. So I just want to say thank you, and I look forward to looking and diving into this material. It's greatly
And I'm happy to
appreciated.
answer additional questions. I'm happy to come out anytime anyone wants to talk about survey. We're here I think this is my 3rd trip to Muskegon this year, so I'm
Thank
here
you.
quite frequently. So.
Commissioner Cochin.
Yes, thank you so much. I actually saw the presentation on this, I think a month or so ago, and I was so excited. My dad would always tell me about the sanitary dairy every time we would drive by Rikes, and so this really has got me excited about seeing more engagement and understanding about the civil rights movement in the city of Muskegon. My question to you guys is, as far as getting this information out to the public in a way that they can find it a little bit easier. So I know when I've visited cities, I will be walking around, I'm like, oh, there's a plaque, I'm going to read the plaque. And it says, oh, on this day, at this year, this happened on this site. Is there any plans to get plaques?
Not at this point in time from us. It's certainly something that we could explore in the future. SHPO does not manage the Michigan Historic Marker Program. That's the Michigan History Center, which is in DNR. So we don't manage that. We work closely with them, but we don't manage that. But it's certainly something that could be looked at as a future CLG grant, where you could go and do, that's definitely one of the allowable grants. So it's definitely something that could happen. It's just not something that was wrapped into this grant. So we chose to go the route of the educational piece of things, which is the first time we've done that in the whole state. And it was they were incredibly helpful. So it was really great.
And just to follow up, I just wanted to also thank you for doing that portion of it too, because I think that's so important that we get that information to our students.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure we could tie kind of, there's been a ton of research in Muskegon that from what we found on people, which is great, but there was not a lot to tie back to places and like the built environment and the physical environment. So we wanted to kind of add that piece.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Thank you so much for doing this. Jamie, my question is for you. I'm wondering if you have thoughts about next steps and what we would do with this incredible piece of information.
Yeah, I think that we're going to talk about it with the Historic District Commission and decide what kind of public outreach might be important in this case. It is a large document and not always the most accessible, but it is very readable, I think, having gone through it briefly myself. And I think that the question of markers is a good one. I think that was something that should be considered in more places, and maybe not just state markers, but at times I've considered the idea of having just local markers. There are some cities that do that where it's not associated with any sort of statewide or federal honorary thing, but it's just something that's there to inform. And even if there's a site that is now vacant, it might be worth pointing out that on this site this happened. These people were involved here, and you might not recognize it today, but there were important moments in the city's history that happened in this place.
Thank you,
think-
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
SHPO we are waiting to hear back from the Park Service on an additional grant. So we're kind of, and we're in the process of doing kind of our planning of what we're going to be applying for the next few years. There are three grant programs the Park Service has. They are available to CLGs, so the City of Muskegon could apply for their own grant. Grand Rapids just did it, and they actually just got awarded their first one. And that's the first municipality outside of Detroit that has done that. So, and we were able to help kind of guide that a little bit and to just kind of offer advice when they asked for it. So we're happy to do that, but those grant rounds open on an annual basis, and the projects, I think both programs have a $75,000 cap for the projects. So the Civil Rights Grant Program does have a physical work construction. Like they have grants up to $500,000 for construction projects. And they have a very large pot of money. They're always looking for grants. So we definitely encourage communities that potentially have the capability to do that to look into it, and we're happy to answer questions or provide any kind of guidance that we can. So,
Any other questions or comments at this time, commissioners?
Just one other question.
Commissioner German.
Yeah, is this something that, have you talked to schools or colleges, universities about getting this information into those educational institutions?
So we're still working with the school district here to kind of, and the Lakeshore Museum to kind of wrap this into, we just finished and got, like I said, everything went up on our website literally today. So we're kind of in that process right now of trying to get it out to wherever we can. Those copies that I brought are, your all's to keep. If I need to get Jamie more copies, I can get him more copies. But we also usually plan on getting them to museums and archives. We haven't reached out a ton to universities. A lot of universities already have relationships with SHPO, and we work pretty closely with a number of them to get access to resources that we have. The SHPO does maintain a kind of database and collection of historic resource surveys, so I do have the surveys from the 70s that are in Muskegon. They are currently being scanned, and hopefully in the next 12 months will be available to the general public on our website. So that's going to be another, I think, helpful avenue, but it's definitely something that we're working on. This, like I said, this was the first time we've actually done an educational element. It kind of worked better than I ever thought it would. I was not sure how that was going to work, because it's not an avenue that we have dealt with very often, but it worked really well, and the school district was super helpful, and so I think that that's something we'll be doing more kind of exploration on over the next few grant cycles. So we don't want these documents to kind of just get buried at our office. We want them to be usable. We want them to be accessible, and because they're fascinating to read. And there's historic photos and maps and all sorts of things in there. That's one of the great parts about the consultant that we were able to select, is that she makes a very readable, kind of reader-friendly document. So.
All right, thank you. Yeah, excellent job. Thank you.
I will add that I'm happy to hear that you're digitizing a lot of those things, because that is something that I've been trying to do as well. We do occasionally get contacted by universities for either class projects or individual projects, and it really helps to have a lot of that stuff publicly available. So if somebody is doing research, if they're doing a thesis on something that happened in Muskegon, history thesis, architecture thesis, whatever it might be, having that information easily accessible to the public really broadens the number of researchers that can be out there looking into this type of work. So I'm all about getting that stuff digitized, publicly available.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments at this time? No? I do see you, sir, and wishing to speak. If you can complete the public comment form, and I will call you up during public comment on agenda items, even though this is not an agenda item that's requiring action at this time, I will invite you during public comment on agenda items, sir. Oh, if you want to speak with maybe the people after the meeting.
Can I just ask one question here? I don't want to break protocol.
Okay. Yeah, if you could speak with them on the sidelines and ask them the question, or follow up with me or anyone else on the commission afterwards, because it's not really time for public Q&A right now. All right. Well, thank you so much. The work that you are doing is so incredibly important in terms of documenting and acknowledging and respecting the many contributions of our Black residents throughout Muskegon's history. That legacy is incredibly important. It is not one that is always given its proper due. And so the better that we can document that and track that and chronicle that, all the better. And then take action, as we've discussed. How can we not only preserve the built environment that recognizes that, but where it has gone missing, how do we provide some kind of indication or marker so it's still relevant in people's day-to-day lives and not having to go track it down in a library or on a website somewhere. So excellent work, and thank you so much. All right, next up, we have Women Veterans Day. So I'm going to read this and invite up all of our women veterans in the room as we present this, and give an opportunity for some of them to address the commission and the public. So, whereas Muskegon, Michigan salutes and remembers the many American female veterans who have courageously and honorably served in the military on behalf of our nation, and whereas women have formally been a part of the United States Armed Forces since the inception of Army Nurse Corps in 1901, but have proudly served alongside and supported our nation's military since the American Revolution. And whereas with over 2 million of the veteran population being women, and 20% of today's military comprised of women, the women veterans community is the fastest growing subset of American veterans. And whereas on this day, we commemorate the women who fearlessly served our nation, and we honor our female veterans and their families for their remarkable service, sacrifice, and outstanding contributions to our nation. And whereas the Muskegon City Commission hereby recognizes our nation's women veterans by declaring April 26th of each year as Women Veterans Day in Muskegon. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Kenneth D. Johnson, Mayor of this magnificent city of Muskegon, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Women Veterans Day in Muskegon, and encourage all City of Muskegon citizens to recognize the courage and contributions of generations of American servicewomen and their families who have proudly served our great state and nation, doing their part to protect our land, people, freedoms, and legacy. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Done that there.
Is she done?
Ms. Henrietta, if you'd like to introduce yourself and share a little bit about Mission United and Wink, perhaps?
Exactly. Well, good evening. I am Henrietta Hadley. I have the privilege as the outreach coordinator of WINK, Women Injured in Combat, if you don't know what WINK means, to serve these women who have served our country. And as the outreach coordinator, many of you are residents of Muskegon. You see us probably in most veteran activities. But tonight, to have the city of Muskegon continue to honor our women, since probably the last 5 years, we have been honored by the city of Muskegon because 5 years ago, we were able to engage women from across the country to join us here in Muskegon for a military sisterhood conference. There were over about 200 women that came from all over, gathered in Muskegon, and since that day, we have been given this honor. So we want to say thank you on behalf of all the women veterans here in Muskegon. In addition to last year when we were here, a lot has happened. Because of the tribute that you read, this year will be the first ever honor flight. If you've ever heard of the honor flight, for a lot of our veterans who served in some of the earlier eras, this year we will have the honor to take an entire flight of women from various eras to Washington, D.C. for the first ever honor flight. And guess what? We're going to travel along with the bus to honor those women when they join all of the other women from across the country in D.C. on June 11th. So on June 11th, there will be about 60 of us from across the state of Michigan joining those women in D.C. And we've done something else right here in Muskegon, and I think Dom and Sunny will come up and share a little bit about what the Lakeshore United Way has done in the last year. Since we were here, we are one of 26 cities that have been honored with a chapter of something called Mission United, which focuses on veterans, both men and women and their families. So that says a lot about the Lakeshore United Way and a lot about Muskegon and what we've done. So I've asked Dom and Sunny to come up really quickly as we both represent the Mission United Committee. Sunny is the chair and I'm the co-chair, but we just wanted the commissioners and the community to know that we're doing a lot for veterans across the city. So, Sunny?
First and foremost, ladies, thank you so much for all you've done, both when you were in and when you were out. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and we're here to support you. Mission United is part of United Way of the Lake Shore, and so we're here to support. So if there's something else, another veteran that needs help, please let us know. Also, mark your calendars, June 21st, Parties in the Park. We'll be there raising some money for our veterans. So hope to see you there, and thank you again for all you do.
And thank you.
All right, I have one more thing to read under honors, awards, and presentations before we move on to public comment agenda items and the rest of our business. So this is National Small Business Week 2024. Whereas the resilience of American small businesses continues to drive America's strongest economic growth in almost 40 years, fostering the competition and innovation that creates opportunities for families, workers, and neighborhoods. And where small businesses are the backbone of our communities and the American economy, employing more than half of our nation's workers, enriching our main streets, making parts and products in America to fuel our supply chains, building our nation's infrastructure, and innovating and inventing the products of tomorrow. And whereas the historic investments made through the President's American Rescue Plan Act, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, CHIPS and Science Act, and Inflation Reduction Act are ensuring small businesses can access federal capital support, technical assistance, contracting opportunities, and other resources to help lead the way as we rebuild America's roads and bridges and build a clean energy economy for the future. And whereas when we support small businesses, jobs are created and local communities preserve their unique culture and enjoy new opportunities to build generational wealth. And whereas entrepreneurship continues to be one of the best pathways to the American dream, evidenced by the historic small business boom, with a record 16.5 million Americans applying to start a business since January 20th, 2021, including 5.5 million last year. And whereas by renewing our commitment to supporting small businesses, we can maintain our global competitiveness and build a stronger nation where everyone can succeed, from the bottom up and the middle out. And whereas the President of the United States has proclaimed National Small Business Week every year since 1963 to highlight the programs and services available to entrepreneurs through the U.S. Small Business Administration and other government agencies. And whereas the City of Muskegon supports and joins in this national effort to recognize the contributions of small businesses to the American economy and their importance in ensuring the vibrancy of our local communities. Now, therefore, I, Kenneth D. Johnson, Mayor of this magnificent city of Muskegon in the great state of Michigan, do hereby proclaim April 28th through May 4th, 2024 to be National Small Business Week, and I encourage our community members and visitors to support our local small businesses this week and every week. Shop local, buy local, support local, please. All right, we are moving on to public comment on agenda items. I have one form to speak on an agenda item. There's still time to submit forms to speak on agenda items. Those forms are at the back of the room. Again, ask that you provide your name and home address, but I will not be announcing your home address nor asking you to share that publicly. We will be going to the phone after in-person comments are received. All right, first up. What I do is I call up residents first and announce the neighborhood in which they reside. I don't share their home address. And then I call up any non-residents and just acknowledge, what city or township or village they might be joining us from. So first up, we have Mr. Ed Bodman joining us from the Beechwood Bluffton neighborhood, speaking with regard to the SDR appeal at 1450 Nelson. Welcome, sir, and you have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Thank you. I won't take 3 minutes. Thank you for honoring small businesses, especially here in Muskegon. I'm here to speak on behalf of 1450 Nelson, who is here tonight to appeal their STR exemption. I'm a neighbor. I live just down the street, and I think that these folks would be great members of our community, and I want to encourage each one of you to support their appeal tonight. Going back through that process myself, it takes a long time to find the right piece of property or home. And there's a lot of time in developing and relationships with local vendors and folks that are involved in the process. And these folks have started that process. So tonight, when you hear their story, I would appreciate it if you would look to vote in their favor, because I look forward to chatting with them in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodman. All right, next up, we have Dan Beckerman joining us from the city of Whitehall. Welcome, sir. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Thank you. Greetings. I come as the president of the Muskegon Area Sports Hall of Fame. And we have been an organization since 1985, when we first found our home at the LC Walker Sports Arena. And over the time when we've seen this renaissance at the Walker Arena, go from Walker Arena to Mercy Health to Trinity Health, we were put on mothballs for a little bit of time, and our memorabilia and things have been kind of put on some shelves. I would like to recognize a few people very involved and instrumental in helping us through this partnership. Jake LeMay, who's here tonight, has been instrumental from the city's side, and Andrea Rose from the Lumberjacks organization, so that we can have a reestablished presence in the Trinity Health Arena. We're looking simply to move from an outer space to an inner space. And Commissioner German, I appreciated to hear that you wanted to hear more about the history from the first presentation. Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, went in a parade with Phil Baldwin right down the city of Muskegon Heights. And we have a rich, rich history from sports perspective. We've got a wonderful history in civil rights. We have a wonderful history with the museums in Muskegon County. We will, again, be able to share the Muskegon Area Sports Hall of Fame's rich history by having a presence very pronounced in Trinity Health Arena. And I wanted to come before you with a full heart of gratitude that the partnership between the Lumberjacks Association and the city and the work that Jake was able to do to get us to this point, to come before you seeking your approval for this shift from the outer to the inner, to have a wonderful presence to present the memorabilia in a new technological way. And we're really excited about this opportunity. So I wanted to come before you and say thank you for getting us on your agenda, for considering this proposal that's been put before you. So with that, I want to say thanks again.
Thank you. Appreciate you joining us this evening. All right. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to give comment on an agenda item or items this evening? Okay, we're going to be going to the phones. That phone and call-in number is 231-724-6721. When you're calling, please turn off any audio that you have in the background and announce your name. And if you're a resident, which neighborhood you're calling from. If you're a non-city resident, which village, township, or other city you're calling from. We'll give that just a couple moments. There's a little delay from when it's announced here and it's heard on Facebook and YouTube. All right, no calls? All right. Moving on to our consent agenda. Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to review items on our consent agenda. Are there any that you wish to have removed for a separate discussion, deliberation, and vote? Commissioner German.
Item C.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Yeah, point of information. Do we normally get an email if this changes? Because this paper copy is different than what we got earlier in the week.
So generally, yes, there was an item that we were anticipating being added, the easement, that hasn't finished through legal, so that is not on the agenda. So the one that's published is the correct agenda. The one that's published online that you already got. Yeah.
No, well, the one that we got, I have it pulled up in front of me. Mm-hmm. The ones that I want to pull are different letters than the ones here because we removed something.
Okay.
So announce. So I'm going to go off this. Announce the name that, as well as the item, so we'll make sure that you're on the same page.
Okay. So I would like to pull F, rezoning of property at Oak Avenue and Riley Street. G,
outdoor seating.
Outdoor seating.
Okay.
And H, sale of 1408 Leahy.
Okay. Any other items, commissioners? Commissioner Cochin.
Item E, powdered activated carbon purchase.
Okay. Any other items? There are none. Commissioners, I would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented, minus items C, E, F, G, and H.
So moved. Support.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Gorman. Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item C, Commissioner German, Burning Foot Camping.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Keenan asked me to pull this one off. I authorized Burning Foot to provide camping at Pier Marquette on August 24th, 2024, and accept 10% of their camping revenue as fees to the city.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Vice Mayor St. Clair. Welcome, sir. If you please introduce yourself and report out on this item.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Dan Vanderhyde, Director of Public Works for the city. This item is one that comes before the Commission, or at least has in the past, typically annually. Burning Foot, as you may know, is a festival that happens on the beach. This year it's proposed for August 24th. they are working their way through the special event approval process, which is a process that all public events in the city that are open to the public and use public resources need to go through. This one in particular comes because they propose camping on the beach, as they have in the past few years, and camping requires approval of the City Commission. One item of note is that, as they have in the past few years, they've proposed 10% of camping revenue in lieu of the $20 per night per camper fee in the stated schedule, which is an allowable change in the fee schedule and ordinance.
Commissioner German.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Director Van Hyde. And the question was for, like I said, Commissioner Keenan asked me to pull this off the agenda because she had to leave. But why the change for the fee than the tent fee?
So, as I said, they make this request each year, and so although it is a change from the way that the fee schedule is stated of $20 per camper per night, this is the same way that they have given revenue to the city for that camping in the last few years. The change is essentially made, the result of the change is less administration, I'm sure, on their end, and also a lower fee compared to what the fee schedule asks for. Given that I suspect, I'm not sure if anybody is here from the event, but I suspect it's due to the amount of camping revenue that they generate, that they propose the 10% rather than the $20 per night.
Okay.
Commissioner Sherman?
Yeah, because I'm looking at the percentage of 300 tents, and then times $20, and 30 RVs opposed to that 10%. City would be like losing money, but you're just actually working with them, giving them, I guess, somewhat relief for their event. That's pretty much the logistics of it.
Yeah, I would say that the 10% revenue is more in line with the impact and the services that the city provides, just given the amount of camping associated with the event.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great explanation. All right, thank you.
Hey, Commissioner German. Yep. Any other questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Cochin.
I have a question for you, Director Vanderhyde. I don't know if you know the answer to it or not, but I know in past years the Burning Foot people have done a cleanup on the beach, and then the citizens also do a cleanup after the Burning Foot people did a cleanup. I was one of those citizens. There's still a decent amount of trash. Is there any odds that we could maybe get them to do an increased level of cleanup in exchange for the 10%?
And certainly talk with them about their cleanup efforts and make sure that they're doing a thorough job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Commissioner Kilgo.
Yeah, I don't know if you know the answer to this either, but do we know what they charge their guests per tent?
I was trying to pull up their website earlier, and it looks like either it's broken or I did something wrong, so I wasn't able to find that number for you. I recall, I have not attended the festival myself, but I recall it's something in the 2 digits, but less than $100 per night.
Thank you.
Sorry,
I'm trying to find it too. Tent camping, excuse me, tent camping is $75. RV camping is $150. So we'd be getting $750 on the tent and $15 on the RV at that 10% rate.
Thank you.
And what did you say? The 150 you said was the other one?
150 for RV. Yep. Yeah. Now this is last year's tickets, so I'm just assuming that they're
okay.
Yeah, I just
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious, running some numbers for
Big.
Okay.
Oh no,
So
I
it's
apologize. That's this year's tickets.
It's a
It's
reduction
24.
by a little over half. If we were to go the 10% of gross revenue versus $20 per campsite. a little over half. Commissioner Cochin.
Sorry, one more question. That just kind of got me thinking. Director Vanderhyde, do you know, does that money from the Burning Foot Festival, does that go into our general fund, or does that go to a specific fund in particular?
It goes into the general fund.
It goes into the general fund. Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Thanks. So to confirm, you said that this is a change that they request every year,
That is correct.
and we have previously granted this to them historically?
As far as I know, for each of the times they have requested it.
And this might not be you question, it might be a city manager question, but can somebody tell me the reasoning behind the fees that we charge? This is going to answer my own question a little bit, but somebody can confirm for me. We charge fees to cover the costs that the city incurs, not as a revenue generator. Is that accurate?
That is my understanding.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, I asked a question and was hearing.
Yeah,
two.
yeah. So just to double check, because I didn't see that reflected in the cover sheet for the supporting documents. So we've been charging 10%. We've
Correct.
not been charging $20 per campsite for this event.
Correct.
Since its inception.
Right.
Correct.
Gotcha. All right, then I'm comfortable with what's being proposed. Any other questions or comments on this item? I will say this, though, caveat. I'm comfortable with this proceeding going forward, piggybacking on Commissioner Cochin's concern, if that we are seeing significant issues in the aftermath of the event, to the state of the conditions that necessitates additional work, whether it's volunteers going there or the city, like we should be taking that into account in terms of the cost structure and making sure that there's adequate revenues to properly clean it up, or more fully clean up the site. Commissioner Cochin?
Yes, just to kind of add on to that, Mayor Johnson. So one of the things that we found in the biggest majority besides microplastics was cigarette butts. So if there's any way we can get some more of those like little butt stations out there, that would be phenomenal.
We will talk with the event and find some ways to improve that in particular.
Thank you. All right. If there's nothing else, then roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up, item E, powdered activated carbon purchase. Commissioner Cochin.
Yes. Director Vanderhyde again. I just wanted to, I move to authorize staff to purchase 8 tons of powdered activated carbon, or PAC, from Water Solutions Unlimited for $28,170.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Cochin, supported by Commissioner German.
So, Director Vanderhyde, I just wanted to bring this up so that the citizens had a chance to understand a little bit better about what this is. Can you explain what the powdered activated carbon is used for?
Sure. So it's a component of the filtration process that we use at the water filtration plant. There's lots of things that happen prior to that filtration process, but the filters themselves, which is the last step in the process, are made up of sand and this powdered activated carbon, layered kind of sandwich style, and the water passes through them. The sand and the carbon together capture a mix of things that might have escaped prior stages of treatment. In particular, the powdered activated carbon also helps with taste and odor. So if there's small little things in the water that might down the line create an unpleasant taste or odor, this helps quite a bit with that.
Exactly. Thank you so much. And so this is going to improve our city water quality and make sure it stays safe.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Any other questions or comments on this item? No? All right. Thank you, Director Vanderhyde. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item F, rezoning of properties at Oak Avenue and Riley Street. Commissioner Kilgo.
Motion to approve the request rezone the following properties from MC Medical Care to form-based code in the neighborhoods listed below.
All right.
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say the motion could read as presented.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Sorry.
Yep. You don't have to read all the addresses. You can just say as presented. Yeah.
As presented.
Yep.
But just to clarify, that is rezoning the properties from medical care to form-based code neighborhood edge context area. All right. I've got a motion by Commissioner Kilgo.
Support.
And it's supported by Commissioner Cochin. So, welcome, sir. If you please introduce yourself and report out on this item.
Mike Franzak, the planning director. And this section of parcels over on the east side of the city is zoned for medical care. This is from when the general hospital was still in use. Since then, we've seen a lot of turnover in the businesses there, a lot of vacancies. And we've been, in the planning department, we've gotten a lot of calls over the past couple of years from realtors and business owners asking if they could do certain uses in there, and unfortunately we've been having to tell them no. So we have identified this. This was a major point in our master plan for this neighborhood, is to identify a new zoning district, work with the business owners to come up with zoning regulations that will help fill these businesses and be harmonious with the surrounding neighborhood. So instead of waiting for more property owners to contact us, we decided to reach out to the property owners and hold what we are starting to call focus groups. So we noticed that there was a problem. We encouraged these property owners to meet us here for a meeting or on Zoom if they couldn't make it in person. We proposed a specific zoning district after staff read through the different options that we had. We proposed this form-based code neighborhood edge and presented it to the property owners about the different business uses they could do. Now that does include different types of commercial and residential, so there's flexibility on how that area could be redeveloped. There's also, I think, 3 or 4 vacant parcels on that area too, not just the existing buildings. So we believe that this zoning designation will help redevelop the area much quicker than have individual business owners making different types of zoning requests on their own.
Awesome. I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
My first question is, could you tell us a little bit about the responses that you got from the focus group?
Yes,
in general?
all positive. We sent out, I think, 20 to 22 notices to property owners. We had about 12 or 13 different properties represented at the meeting, and 100% agreements in the rezoning.
And then can you explain the neighborhood's edge?
Yes. So it will allow for different types of commercial and residential properties. So we could see duplexes or townhomes in that area, or we could see different types of retail buildings defined in the form-based code. So in terms of the uses, as long as you have this retail type of building, you could operate many types of businesses out of there, whether it's general office, retail, a whole bunch of different regular business that you would find in any business zone, along with the option for single-family duplexes and missing middle types housing.
Awesome. My last point would just be a comment. Like, I'm very familiar with form-based code, and I would like to see this this parcel. I'm sorry, these parcels are in my ward. I would love to see them develop to some mixed use. It would be really good to revive that part of our city that some people don't even think's our city because it's on the other side of 31.
Yeah.
But to show how form-based code works so that we can get that implemented in different parts of the city.
Yeah, we think this is a great introduction to for this neighborhood to form-based code. We've also been working with the county at the old Baker, or the old campus there on Marquette and Quarterline. They have been working with us on some ideas for developing outlots or additions to
their campus, and they're discussing rezoning as well, and they're leaning towards a form-based code as well. So we see this development and the county's development going that way, and really making that a more dense area, and also a lot more pedestrian friendly and a walkable area.
Awesome. No further questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Franzik. Looking at the footprint there that's sketched in red, we're looking at the properties starting from Oak Street, but there's other properties in the back that expands back. So are those included in the footprint that you're talking about?
No, everything just inside of the red would be included. We did not include the parent parcel, which is the hospital building, because they are working on their own redevelopment plans, and they want to come forward at a later date for a possible different type of zoning designation for that development. So we did talk to them. They wanted to be excluded from that, and that makes sense with some of the things they're doing right now for planning for a redevelopment.
Okay. And if this was approved for a foreign-based code, they would have the flexibility or the option to like build upward also if they wanted to as well, right?
Yeah, 5 stories would be the maximum for the neighborhood edge, and that would be for commercial buildings.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments at this time? Commissioner? All right. Thank you, Director Franzik. Roll call, please.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, G. Amendment to the zoning ordinance, outdoor seating. Commissioner Kilgo.
Motion to approve the request to amend section 2003.04 and 2308 of the zoning ordinance to modify the regulations on outdoor seating as proposed.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Kilgo, supported by Vice Mayor St. Clair. Director Franzik. Welcome back. You didn't go anywhere, so.
I think the best way to probably explain this is, and if you could scroll to the visual down at the couple pages, right about there. Yep, thank you. The zoning ordinance mentions outdoor seating in 2 different places, in the regular standard zoning ordinance and then again in the form-based code. We're proposing to modify this to just really centralize it in one location. So the modifications of the form-based code would just basically say to see the regular zoning ordinance. And we took the liberty of making a rendering here to show exactly how this would work. Now there's 2 different scenarios that we see in our downtown for outdoor seating. The first one would be the top one where you see the building and that little indent is where the door would be. And then you see pedestrian space, and then you see the outdoor seating next to the curb. And then you have the other option where you have the outdoor seating up next to the building, and then you have the pedestrian access along the curb. Another thing we wanted to do is tweak this so we can also talk about the bollards, which are new. And that kind of throws another curveball into this whole ordinance. So the bollards move seasonally, so we are suggesting that once the bollards move, that the seating can move along with that in that extra space. So what we're asking is that you always have, no matter what scenario you use, you always have to have at least 6 feet of clearance either between the building and the outdoor seating, or 6 feet from the outdoor seating into the curb. Now, we do understand that there are impediments to that all throughout downtown, whether that's a tree or a light post or a traffic sign. We are saying that it doesn't matter if you want to fence in a tree. We've seen some people do some pretty cool things like that, and it really doesn't affect the city so much, but we wouldn't want anybody to fence in, say, a traffic sign or a light post or anything that we may need access to. So, given that those impediments exist, sometimes, we want to make sure that you're always meeting ADA standards, and ADA standards say that there has to be at least 4 foot of clearance between these impediments and 6 feet if you're pushing the person towards the curb. So you can see on the second drawing where that light post is and it says 4 feet. This would be acceptable because you have the 6 feet between the curb or the bollards and the outdoor seating, and then 4 foot of clearance between the light post and the seating, and that's going towards the building, so that would be fine. If that light post was up near where the seating is, you'd have to have 6 feet because you'd be pushing that person towards. So this just makes everything a little bit more uniform. You also have the option to use both of these. We usually don't have enough sidewalk for that to be an option, but places like in front of the Leonard or somewhere where there's a lot of sidewalk, it actually would be possible to have a little bit of seating against the building, keep that pedestrian access, and then have more seating out near the.
So I have a couple questions. One, I really did try to read this one, and I think the red is the new stuff, like in our
Yes.
packet, but like it was a little bit confusing. So you've helped explain it a little bit. My first question is, the biggest change is giving it the option of 6 feet, whether you're separated from the building or if they're up against the building, 6 feet from the seating to the curb or bollards. Is that the biggest change from what the outdoor seating ordinance was?
Mostly, and the way that we had always enforced it was that you had to have 4 foot of clearance. So it's really bumping up that extra 2. We always told people, businesses, that if you were going to put the seating next to the building, you have to have 6 foot of clearance between the seating and the curb, and 4 foot if it was the top version. What we're saying now is you should always give that 6 foot, just because there's so much outdoor seating now, especially with the bollards, that people are really getting kind of pinched when they're walking in and out of these areas. So we think 6 foot will help keep it a little bit more uniform. And the other biggest change is stating that they can use this extra space where the bollards go in and out. So once the bollards are moved, they're allowed to move their the outdoor seating as long as they have a plan approved for that. And then we'll give them a couple weeks notice when we intend to move the bollards back in, and then they'll have to move those. And I should also note that this ordinance is only for temporary outdoor seating. So everything that we approve is temporary. The fences cannot be bolted into the sidewalk. That's not always been the case here. There has been other places around that have sought special approvals and been granted them. There's other ones that are unique in that they own the property, such as Sociable actually owns a basement under that property, so their fencing comes out. It looks like it's on the sidewalk, but it's not. That has created some issues with snow clearing because we don't have 6 feet of clearance between their fencing and a street pole. But moving forward, this wouldn't be affected by that because that's their own property. So there's some situations that don't work as well for the outdoor seating, and those were approved by different methods. So this won't really affect everybody.
Yeah, my last question was gonna be that, are there any businesses that you know of downtown that would be adversely affected by this change? Like they can no longer have outdoor seating because of this change?
No, and we tried to take that into account. I think the one we were a little bit worried about was Legends. They're fairly new, and we had some issues with them. I mean, it's worked out great for them, but their first year, they worked with them pretty closely. And they were kind of the ones that brought it about, is we have all this extra space with the bollards. This is supposed to be for people. Shouldn't we address this? So they kind of brought this to the forefront. And when we wrote this, I think that this will work out very well for them. Also, they incorporated the tree within their fence line, which was not allowed before. Could be now, especially once the bollards move out, they could reconfigure their fencing system.
Thank you.
My question.
Hey, Commissioner Kilgo, any other questions, or you have something, Commissioner Truman? No. Any other questions or comments on this item? All right. Thank you, Director Franzik. And so this had come to the planning commission, and it was unanimously recommended for adoption by the city commission. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Commissioner German.
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman.
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, H, sale of 1408 Leahy. Commissioner Kilgo.
Motion to approve the purchase agreement for 1408 Leahy.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Kilgo, supported by Commissioner German. Welcome. If you could please introduce yourself.
I'm Samantha Poulos, the code coordinator with the planning department.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes. So the whole infill project that we've been doing and all the houses that we've been building has been a great program to provide affordable housing here in the city of Muskegon. I have an issue with 1408 Leahy because that particular home is not on the market for sale. So the listing agent on this property is selling this property to a resident or to a person, but this particular property never went to the open market, which would be Zillow, Realtor.com, all the public places. The listing agent is also dual siding this, so she's representing the buyer and the seller for her financial gain. But if these houses are supposed to be affordable housing for our community, before we say this house or that house is for sale, it should go on the market so everyone can see. I have a colleague of mine, they don't work for my brokerage. She and I went and visited this home and we took a look at it. And they're doing a great job with building these. This is one of those new bi-level ones. It's beautiful. It's a really nice house. She has a client who wanted to put in an offer to purchase this house. But they were told it's already sold before it hit the market. I just don't think that that's fair to the rest of our citizens, and whoever is the person to talk to West Urban should let them know before they say that you can make an offer on this one or that one. They should put it out there to the public for two reasons. One, they could get multiple offers and get maybe a little bit more for the property. But B, it just shows a level of fairness across the board to other citizens who may be interested in some of these new homes because they're driving through the McLaughlin neighborhood and saying, oh, that one's new, this one's new. And it shows impartiality when this new home goes up and then it's just sold, but it never hit Zillow or the MLS for anyone else to take a look at it. So do you know if that's in it? From what I've seen with them before, it hasn't necessarily been their practice. So that's why I'm so concerned about this particular house maybe being earmarked for a certain person. The optics of it don't look good at all to me.
I have no knowledge of that. This, on my end, didn't go any different than any of the other houses that I've been involved with. We, when a certificate of occupancy is being issued, that's when I can sign a listing agreement, which I did in this case. And then after that is when I would look at purchase agreements or income information for the buyers who chose to volunteer that information. This didn't go any different. And so I don't have a tool at my disposal to verify if something is officially on MLS. But I can tell you there was nothing different with this one. So I'm not sure what happened.
For sure. I would just request if staff could have a conversation, if that's our provider who
we can do that.
We're building these through.
Yep.
Because it's not going to be good optics. This person who's buying it, I don't know them, so I'm not saying, hey, vote no on this. It's probably a person who deserves the house and they've done all the applications that they're supposed to do to get it. But I know that there's 7 or 10 other ones in the process of being built right now. And with the ones that went up in Jackson Hill, she would list hers a month before they were done. That way, at least people can see them and inquire about them, and it gives everyone a fair chance, I guess, to get in these new beautiful homes.
We'll have a discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Appreciate it bringing that to our attention so that staff can look into that further and have those conversations and understand what happened in this particular instance. As you mentioned, this has not been routine as for you've seen. This looks to be an isolated incident, but I agree that it is disconcerting to me if we've signed a listing agreement and it was not listed. I'm almost tempted to not even vote on this right now. But I want to understand. Yeah, we can entertain a motion to table, but I would like to, because there's no discussion on motion to table. Right. So I want to understand from if staff can give any insights into. Sometimes there's an urgency, like with this, like this person has already sold their home, they need to move in. So, like, I would like to understand some.
So I to Sam's point, like from our perspective, this wasn't handled any differently. So I think if at this point, if we were to depart from how we've done things in the past, I wouldn't recommend that as the administrator. What I would recommend is that we have a conversation with West Urban about what our expectation is on listing prior to offers being accepted, so that we can ensure this doesn't happen in the future. But to delay this for this buyer, I don't think is necessarily fair to that buyer.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, there's, to my knowledge, Jake probably knows more. There's 4 other buy levels that they'll be done within a month or 2. So there's going to be more like this one. Some of them have garages, some of them don't. Some of the features are different on some of these homes, but there will be more homes. It's just, if we're signing listing agreements, even if it's one day, 24 hours, I listed it and then I accepted an offer, it literally gives everyone in the public a chance to buy it instead of someone saying, "Psst, sell me that one." And they're, oh, poof, it's sold and it never hit the market. So this particular buyer, like the manager said, they may be under time constraints because of them selling their property or their financing having a expiration date on it, and there are more to come. But I definitely would love for staff to have a conversation with West Urban about procedure.
Thank you, Commissioner Kogo. I see Director Erickholm stood up, and so I was wondering if you might be able to shed any light or insights into this matter, context.
Good evening. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, Code Coordinator Poulos is right. So from our side of things, as the owner or contractor to have the house built, this one went like all the other ones. So just to clarify the policy as it exists today internally with our partner agents, whether it's West Urban's brokerage agent or you mentioned Terry Kitchen with TLK Realtors, we have had a standing policy for some time that once houses are to their final walkthrough inspection for C of O, that's when we'll allow realtors to list. And the reason that we don't want them to list before that is because we've had incidents in the past where they, in an event to market them and generate potential buyers, listed them, had a buyer, we bring the sales agreement to commission, and then some finish issue with the house happens and they take longer to finish than we anticipate, and so then that person can't close on their home when they want to. So it's been well-established policy that once we are close to C of O, either final walkthrough or achieving C of O from our own inspections department, because we're subject to our own residential building code, so we go through the inspections phases like everyone else, that we will allow the agents to list and then entertain offers. And so what I'd like to point out is that we will absolutely talk to the broker in this instance, and I will send a written communication to the commission and the manager kind of explaining how this happened and what we're going to do to preclude it from happening again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Erickholm. Any other questions or comments at this time? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Due to the comments and information with Commissioner Kilgo, and knowing that staff had no knowledge and you complied and did business as always, I still find it puzzling and perplexing that this was not listed. And as Commissioner Kilgo stated, giving the option for other buyers to be interested in buying this home, it doesn't, and it wasn't listed, it doesn't set a good precedence for the city to overlook this as commissioners. You know, we have a Fair Housing Act of 1968 when we talk about fair housing, and I think given the fact that we have things like that on the book, and it is a law that we have, everyone have a fair opportunity for housing, and to overlook this, it would be a disservice. So I am not in favor of approving this tonight. I would make a motion to table it. I understand that the buyer may have some sense of urgency, but I think if staff talks with them and if we get some clarity and get a better understanding of what happened and why this home was not listed, it's just good practice to me and good service and good stewards in local government for me.
Thank you, Commissioner German.
I'd just like to make a comment about, just to share a little bit about the buyer. She is below the 120% AMI mark, so she is low income. She is currently with her sons sleeping in a hotel waiting for this closing. So, I, in all good faith, operated the same that I did on all houses. So she will be the one that suffers for someone's lack of due diligence. And I'm not really sure what happened with that listing agreement. Once I sign it, that's something that happens with the broker. She enters it. I don't have anything, the city doesn't do anything with that, so.
Thank you. I think it's important, has been explained and understood, that staff has followed all proper procedures and policies, and nothing's been abnormal or unusual in terms of the steps taken and how it's been handled by the city. There is a unusual circumstance in terms of what happened following your signing of the sales agreement and how it was handled. And while I do think we share in whatever transpired in that moment or subsequently is disconcerting and should and will be addressed by staff, I am torn. I understand the thought about not wanting to approve this because of that and getting that resolved first, but at the same time, I don't necessarily want to harm a prospective resident and buyer unintentionally. And this person, it could be entirely unbeknownst to them what had happened, and they were seeking a home, and it was like, here's a home for you, and they're like, let's buy it, I want it. So I'm troubled by harming a resident unintentionally. But I know you have questions or comments over here, but Mr. Manager might have something to
So I just
share.
The way we would administratively look at this is we found an error in the process that we need to correct going forward, and to hold a innocent party responsible for that now doesn't seem the logical course. I don't think that there's any evidence that we, through our policies, have done anything inconsistently, and so I would encourage the commission to approve this as we did go through our processes the way that they are, the way that we have them set up. We will in the future verify MLS listings, and perhaps that's an additional document that gets put into these packets. But how this would impact this individual, I think we really need to consider that. And there is no evidence that anything from our process of going through things is inconsistent with past practice or past purchases. As was pointed out, this is an individual who's within the target income range that we're looking for this program, and so I think that's an important piece of information to take into consideration as well.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I'm going to go to Commissioner Cochin, and then I'll go to you, Commissioner Kilgo. Commissioner Cochin?
So I think the city manager kind of touched on that a little bit. I'm a little torn, right? Like I agree with Commissioner German that I feel like it is bad practice for the commission to approve this. It would set a bad precedent, but at the same time, I also, feel like we shouldn't be making a ruling that would harm an individual who probably had absolutely no idea about any of this. I guess I was kind of wondering if, is there a way that we could make a conditional approval, saying that if we talk to the broker, right, broker, am I using the right terminology? Okay, if we talk to the broker and get that in writing that they're going to give us the MLS number going forward, then we could conditionally approve that? Is that an option?
It's the commission's pleasure to do whatever it will do. I would not recommend conditioning an approval based on something for a future action.
Okay. All right.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yeah, so me pulling this agenda item was not to delay the buyer in purchasing their home. I would like Mr. Manager and staff to know, and the public to know, if I was the listing agent of this property and none of you all were told that this house is for sale, and I said, hey, do you want to buy this? And I sell it to someone and I get double commission for it, it's not fair to the rest of the public. So it's an issue that needs to be addressed with West Urban, in my mind. The buyer should be able to buy this house. There's more houses coming, and we just get something in place so they know the proper procedures. That's where I'm at.
So I've got a question for you,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo. Because you're a realtor, you have experience in this and knowledge in this profession. So much more knowledge and experience than I do. You mentioned, I didn't know if you're speaking hypothetically or if you're speaking to this specific circumstance in which the broker was receiving a commission for both the buyer and the seller side. Do we know that definitively, or could it be a circumstance where perhaps one side's waived in order to
If you look at the
reinforce
purchase
affordability?
agreement, which is on here, we can scroll down a little bit and look at the purchase agreement. It's on here. It does have the buyer's name on there, so I don't know if we want to put that out there, but listing office and selling office are both West Urban LLC.
But we don't know for a fact if we don't have the commission
I do not
cost in
have.
here.
No.
That's what I was just wondering, because part of I recall when the brokers were first added to this program several years ago, the idea was to realize cost savings and reduce, help bolster the affordability aspect of it. So I guess I would like some insights into that at some point, whether now or in the future. Mr. Manager.
So just a little bit more information, and this is not confirmed, but Director Ekholm just provided me some information that we're being told that it was on the MLS for a day, and that this particular buyer had kept their eye open for this property.
It was never on the MLS.
Okay.
Confirmed. It was never on the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
I've asked West Urban to provide proof for that.
Oh, you've asked them to provide proof.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I followed
Sorry.
up with that because I've had 2 agents reach out, which it's nice to hear that our commission meetings are so well viewed. But like I've had 2 reach out and say that they never saw it, and so I've asked West Urban for some sort of verification because I asked the owner of the brokerage if that was the case, that it had not been listed, because we have pretty clear directive as to how that listing agreement should go. And they said that it had been listed for 1 day and that there was a potential buyer who had gone to an open house and placed an offer on day 1. And we've had 2 realtors now say that they haven't seen it.
Okay.
I also cannot find any record of it online, so I'm just asking the brokerage for verification.
Okay. Apologize for the confusion on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Manager. Commissioner German.
Yes. Okay. Acting in good faith, and you stated that, and there's no discrepancy on that. But I'm looking at federal law when we talk about Fair Housing Act, and I think Commissioner Kilgo gave a good example about a buyer having a fair option to purchase a home. Now, I understand the sense of urgency maybe for that individual, which is the buyer, and I think the onus should be on that broker. But to not have this property listed and give everyone the fair and equitable opportunity is unethical. whether it was a mistake and intentional, or not saying anything on your part or the city. And because you crossed your T's and dotted your I's, and I appreciate that. But maybe, again, tabling this and speaking with the developer or the broker and getting a clear understanding and some clarification on this, I think would be the route to go. Again, I'm going to make a motion to table this. And if there's a second, because I think acting in bad faith, and we've seen that before on this commission, when the city make exceptions, especially when it comes down to a vote, I just don't see it being equitable. I mean, and fair.
Thank you, Commissioner German.
Yes.
Motion is proposed.
Yep.
There is no second.
Yep. Thank you. Just trying to do the right thing.
Yes, Commissioner Cochin. Sorry, I did not see your hand.
That's okay. So this question, I guess, is kind of for everybody up here. What would it look like if we tabled it? I mean, if we find out that they didn't list it on MLS, kind of like, what do we think what we're expecting as the outcome is going to be? Does anybody have any thoughts?
So if you table it, it's just tabled as it is, and then it would come back at our next meeting, which is in 3 weeks on the 14th. If there was a conditional approval, whatever that condition is would have to be met before the closing could occur. So for example, if it was, we had to verify it was on the MLS, and we determined that it wasn't, then they would not be allowed to close, and the sale would not go through. I think the concern that I have from looking at this through the eyes of the buyer is, did they do everything correctly from their side? And, I can't say yes or no on that, but I'm assuming that they assume that they did. Everything that we have in place, all the, the boxes that Sam checks to make sure that things are done correctly were done correctly on our end. A additional level of scrutiny has been suggested by the commission that I think we can implement going forward. But to put an additional requirement on something at this point that wasn't there before, I think it would be unfair, I believe. So.
Piggyback on that, and also asking legal counsel's input also. Speaking to what existing policy is, our existing policy has not been a requirement that it must be listed. I mean, it's been standard practice. We sign it, they get listed, but it's not been standing policy or requirements precondition. Should be. I think we all talk about if we're going to make that change. It should be. That had not been in the standing policy or requirement, prerequisite. Now, my question for legal counsel is, given this buyer, presumably has done everything in good faith and acted in good faith and has put in an offer and they presented an offer, what are any legal implications for the city if the commission were to delay this, substantially, and any injury, to the buyer, or if the commission just said no. I mean, are there, the commission has its discretion to say no for whatever.
Certainly, the city commission. There we go. Certainly, the city commission has the prerogative to turn down any offer for any reason. An issue has come up that calls into question whether there was a fair bidding or not. I don't know the answer. Nobody here knows the answer. That can be the basis. Certainly, the buyer could choose that if that approval on the purchase agreement can't occur for 3 weeks, certainly the potential buyer could back out. I don't think the potential buyer would have much of a remedy, especially given the irregularity, apparently, if true, on did our agent, who's now acting as dual agent, act in your best interest to maximize the amount of money that you can get to somebody that's in that pool of potential buyers? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't think any of us know the answer to that.
Thank you, Mr. Counselor. Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Thank you. So I have a couple thoughts. It sounds like there was no rule that was violated. It sounds like we should have had this rule and did not. I believe we can remedy that going forward, and we should. I believe that this individual sounds like exactly who we mean to sell these houses to. I would be much more concerned if this was somebody with a significant income stream who was purchasing this house to rent it or to have an investment property, but we are building these houses to house low-income families, and that is who this is for. So we're hitting our target market, and legal counsel just referenced, could we maximize our profit by going back on the market and having a bidding war? Probably. But is that why we are building these houses? I don't believe so. I wasn't on the commission when the infill housing program started, but we've been doing it for as long as I've been on the commission, and my understanding is the reason we are building houses is a few-fold, but some of it is because we need housing for everyone, but also because we need housing for low-income families, and that is who this is for. So we don't want to generate a bidding war, because that would price families like this out. I am not at all comfortable with the idea of us voting no on this and leaving this family stuck in a hotel. Like, this is what this program was developed for. This is who this program was developed for. We did not have a rule in place, and shame on us. We will fix that. But I think it would also be shame on us if we punish this buyer for something that they had no control over. I am not willing to table this.
Thank you, Vice Mayor St. Clair. Well said. Director Ericom, you got something to add?
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to point out, regardless of the commission's direction this evening, obviously staff will carry that out to the T. I think it should be explicitly stated that while I understand the concerns that Commissioner German brought up and empathize with them, whether or not a house is actively listed on MLS or any other site before it is brought under contract is not a violation of the Fair Housing Act. I just wanted to put that out there, that regardless of the outcome of this vote, and I think those commissioners that have significant real estate experience would corroborate that there is no violation of the Fair Housing Act regardless of the outcome of this sale, just because it went under contract before being on MLS. Further, I want to point out that we can certainly put in future infill housing agreements that we require that things be listed on the MLS, and I think that's certainly what we're going to do moving forward. But standard practice in real estate, from our understanding, has been that when you sign a listing agreement, it will then be listed. And the primary housing real estate marketplace in Michigan is the MLS. And so, again, I appreciate the comments by the mayor and commission and the manager reiterating that staff followed protocol. The expectation was reasonable that it would be listed on MLS, which is why I have an interest in understanding exactly what happened here and holding folks to account. So I think we'll withhold making a specific recommendation as to the outcome. I think the manager did that, but we would concur. I think it only hurts this buyer in the event if it gets tabled. But again, that's the purview of the commission. So I just wanted to explicitly state that it is not a violation of the Fair Housing Act too.
And I really appreciate that that point and providing clarity there. And also to reiterate, there was an expectation, I think, of the commission and the staff that this would be listed. I do recall conversations when we established this program about the processes for how this can be marketed and presented, and there was an expectation that these would be listed and made available. It's not against the law to sell a property without it being listed, but that was the expectation. And now we need to be taking the steps to reinforce that expectation as a extra step of documentation before it can move forward.
And for all future properties, the code coordinator will require our realty partners to show us that it's been listed on the MLS before we bring any offers to the commission.
All right, thank you, Director Rome. I'll give you just a second, Commissioner Kogo, Commissioner German, and then we're going to be wrapping up and go to a vote.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Gorman has something to add. She has not
Did you want
spoken
to go
yet.
first?
Commissioner German.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Again, my whole point is not to make this buyer suffer, and it was just the protocol of listing this property was not done, and that's not fair to other buyers that may have had an interest. I'm quite sure someone came by and looked at that property. The reason I said table and maybe table for the next meeting, and by it being a sense of urgency that this person is lodged in a hotel, that's unfortunate, and that should be something that the agent should, consider and pay fees for that person being lodged in that hotel. But I think the ethical thing to do, and I'm not familiar with all the realtor laws or anything like that, when selling a property, the property should be listed. Now, whether it's, we can go back and forth and say, well, it's not under the Fair Housing Act. Well, Fair Housing Act was, put in place in 1968 due to unfair housing practices, because specifically people of color and black couldn't get houses due to the redlining and the discrimination. Okay, but still, there's practices that need to be put in place, and just by saying, oh, we're going to do this under this condition, it still doesn't make it right, because the property was not listed. And that's my point, and it's nothing to be punitive to this buyer, but if that somebody else had done it, I've been the same way. So I really feel that we should not vote on this. Others may feel different, and I share your sentiments, but doing the right thing, I think, is the ethical thing to do, in my point, and I will not be supporting this.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Commissioner Kilgo.
So to support Director Outcomes, it is not on the Fair Housing Act that a house has to be listed, but the National Association of Realtors and our local chapter, WEMLAR, West Michigan Lakeshore Association of Realtors, does have policy in place to where if you are marketing a home, which an open house would consider marketing a home, or if a sign is in the yard that is marketing a home, it does have to be put on the MLS. So again, this is an issue with the agent, not the buyer. I do want to recognize Commissioner German's sentiments on there's been gatekeeping for a long, long time with certain communities and saying who can and can't buy a house. I don't believe that this was trying to keep someone else from getting into it, but just so that the city of Muskegon looks good across the board. I definitely think that we should have some policies in place to show this was open and available to all. Now we wait for what comes in. Okay, we accepted A, B, or C from what came in. So I definitely would like to look at our policies, not keep this buyer in lieu, because 3 weeks with a buyer's financing can collapse a deal, with their current living situation can collapse a deal and stuff like that. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Commissioner Gorman, I just want to give you an opportunity before we vote if you have something to add or ask at this time.
Will quickly add that I will be supporting this vote, and I appreciate Commissioner Kogo for bringing this to our attention, to the entire commission. I think most of us on this commission are happy to extend some grace to our team, that we did learn a lesson today, and I look forward to moving forward in this process with the updates we discussed tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner Gorman. All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Koshin?
Sorry, I'm torn. Give me a second. Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
No.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have a public hearing on the 2024 Annual Action Plan. Welcome. If you could kindly introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I am Sharonda Carson. I am the Director of Community Neighborhood Services. And at this time, we would like to offer a period for public comment on our 2024 Annual Action Plan. The action plan outlines how CNS plans to expend the CDBG and home funds for the upcoming grant year. Some CDBG programs we have implemented in the past are priority home repair, residential facade, and youth credit recovery program, and kids power of produce. We have also granted funds to the Muskegon Public Schools Youth Basketball League, Love Inc., Boys and Girls Club, Age Well Services, and that's just to name a few. We have also used these funds to improve some parks, driveways, and pavilions. We use these funds to ensure staff is properly trained in fair housing practices. Our home funding has been used to renovate several homes that are then turned into opportunities for low-income families who desire to become homeowners. We have also collaborated with local community housing development organizations to produce affordable rental units. The proceeds from these sales make it possible to fund our home buyers down payment assistance program. This year we have over $300,000 in requests from sub-recipients. And that's just the overview of some ways that we have utilized these funds in the past. And at this time, we would like to open up the floor for public comment, or if you would like to provide feedback on some of these items. Oh, I also wanted to make a note that we have not received our allocations for the next year. We have been prompted to turn in our annual action plan with our last year's budget. The last year budget was a little over $900,000 for CDBG and $325,000 for home.
Thank you, Director Carson. So this is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to give comment, now is the time. We'll be going to the phones as well shortly thereafter. Yes, Ms. Vina Coleman joining us from the Jackson Hill neighborhood. Please go to the podium.
Well, I read through some of those thick old grants, and Sharonda knows my opinion on some of them. But I'm here about one particular item, and that is the firehouse bond. So with that, we can do more things for the city, and we can open up more programs for the youth if the city will take back that bond. That's it. So, I'm gonna push that.
Thank you, Ms. Vina.
All
I
right.
appreciate you joining us and participating in this public hearing. I appreciate your service on our Citizens District Council as well. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to give public comment at this time? All right. We're going to go to the phones. So this is public comment on the CDBG annual action plan. So no comments on anything else right now. This is a public hearing for that particular plan. Phone number is 231-724-6721. I'll give that just a couple moments for everyone to call in. We'll entertain questions and comments from the commission after we've closed the public hearing. All right, looks like we have no phone-in comments for this public hearing. Commissioners, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing for the 2024 Annual Action Plan review and continue to accept comments through May 15th, 2024.
So move.
Support.
A motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. As the motion maker, I'm going to go to Commissioner German first with any questions or comments you may have on this item.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Director Carson? Is it Carson?
Carson.
Carson, thank you. CDBG block grant funding. We talked before, and one of my concerns was with those grants for housing repairs, that we look at options to take the liens off of some of these citizens when they apply for these grants. And depending on, I guess, the amount of service needed, something just maybe like a stair repair or something to that nature, I don't think warrant a 5-year lien on a property. I've looked around the country in other areas, and what I'm seeing is that local governments are actually coming in these places, these residents get these loans, and then they go to flagging them, and they don't have the money to repair. And then, especially senior citizens, then they either have to sell the house or they lose the house. Just another form of gentrification to me. And so my concern would be looking at ways to look at these citizens and looking at the repairs needed on the house or the property to alleviate maybe the liens dependent on the amount of work that's done. If that's something, have you looked at it? And I've actually added that to our legislative policy. I would like to look at some ways to probably see how we can protect homeowners, but also renters as well. I mean, it's plethora of things I like to look at.
Okay, to address your concern about the liens, I want to let you know that the process of having a lien placed on a home is to just protect our investment. We're trying to create ways for people to stay in their homes and not leave, because as you stated, that the repairs may be too expensive for them to afford, and then they have to move on, sell their home or foreclose on it, what have you. So it's just a protection for us so that people aren't using our services to repair their homes for potential sale and raise the value of the homes. The other issue that you raised is pertaining to the amount of the lien. And what we do right now is we don't place a lien on a home unless it's over $2,500. So that's what, anything over $2,500 triggers a lien.
Okay. Thank you. Now, Mayor, one more question.
One follow-up? Thank you for that explanation, Director.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say that as well, Mayor. Thank you. Given the fact that maybe a senior citizens, 70, 80, 80 years old, more likely that person's not going to move or go anywhere. And given the fact of years of tax paying and being a productive citizen, I would like to see something, in fact, to look at our seniors that have these properties that can't afford to fix up their properties. Maybe not even raise the rate. Maybe I should say the amount. I should say.
Thank you for weighing in on that, Commissioner German. I think we're getting a little into the weeds of process versus allocation of dollars and how they're being utilized. Not to say that it's not, something that can be addressed and discussed and explored further. But I just want to bring us back to the public hearing portion of the allocations and general utilization of these dollars. I know Mr. Manager's got something to add, but I was going to. I'll defer to him first, and maybe he'll address what I'm.
So just
going on in my head next.
Director Carson, just for clarification, so the lien doesn't prevent a homeowner from selling the home. They could still sell the home, but the proceeds that they receive from the monies that they got from the grant would have to be repaid.
Yeah. So those funds at the time of sale will be returned to the city of Muskegon.
So I'm just gonna. Nope, I don't want to weigh in this because then we're getting into the process of this and whether it's appropriate to have this amount of lien or that lien or how long. I think that's more appropriate. Now we're going to do this on our legislative policy committee meeting. We will discuss that, and then we can either refer it to our Citizens District Council, which is responsible for oversight and advising on our community development block grant dollars and home funds and how they're utilized. So we may refer this to the CDC for them to review and make a recommendation to the City Commission. But I do think the legislative policy committee meeting, we've got one next month. So let's get this on that agenda and particularly bring some of our new commissioners up to speed on this because they may not be so familiar with this program and how these funds are utilized. And so I think our next LPC meeting would be a good time to explore this further. Thank you, Commissioner German.
Thank you, Director Carlson.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kildell.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Carson, for all the information. You said a lot of things at the beginning. I don't know if I heard, and one thing that I would love to see is an overall education piece, whether that's educating our seniors or the people that these CDBG funds are even available. But one of the things I'm really passionate about is homebuyer education, and personally, because you helped me with the homebuyers class before, there's some bad ones out there. But we have community partners actually we have a certified HUD counselor through the city of Muskegon. Maybe we can use some of these funds to put on a monthly or even bi-monthly homebuyers class through the certified HUD person so that citizens can get a good homebuyers class, because we're building a lot of good properties for people, and there are properties all over that are being renovated. And I just think that would be a really good thing to add to this list of all these other wonderful things that we've done with the CDBG funds before. To add a homebuyer education piece in there, I think would be awesome.
So, the city of Muskegon doesn't have a HUD certified counselor. We have one in the area through Mid-Michigan, and so we do a lot of referring out to home buyer classes in the city of Muskegon. We talk to Mid-Michigan all the time about their offerings, and I'm willing to work with you to figure out how we can form maybe a better partnership so that we can make sure that citizens are properly informed.
Or even True North. There's someone that's here in the city instead of people having to go outside of our city limits to get that class. I think would be great.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Any other questions or comments at this time? Nope. All right. So again, this motion is to close the public hearing for the 2024 Annual Action Plan Review and to continue to accept comments through May 15th, 2024. So members of the public, you still have opportunity to weigh in on this. Director Carson, before we go to a vote, can you please explain how people can reach out and give that comment?
Yeah, citizens can reach out to the City of Muskegon's Community Neighborhood Services Department by either coming in person. We're located upstairs in room 202. Citizens can also call our number. It's 231-724-6717. You guys can email us at cnsmail@shorelincity.com, or you can visit the Community and Neighborhood Services landing page on the City of Muskegon's website and provide a comment there.
Excellent. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Moving on to new business. We have a short-term rental exemption appeal for 1550 Nelson. It's being reported out by the manager's office.
Yes.
Mr. Manager.
So this is the first one of these that we've received. So this is a little bit of a different process. Obviously, there's not a specific staff recommendation on here. But last month, the commission instituted a pause on short-term rental registrations. There is a process for individuals to be able to apply for an exception to the pause. And one of the denials that I sent out was for 1450 Nelson Street. And then we do have the property owners here, Dr. Leah Wetland and Mr. Carlos Pava. Okay. So I'm going to kind of go over the case a little bit and then invite them up to the podium to share any additional information that they would like to with you and to answer any questions either from the staff perspective or the property owner's perspective. So this the three criteria that I look for in the exception was there an active purchase of the property in process at the time that the pause went into place? Are there active permits for work to build or update the property at the time that the pause went into place? And has work been completed to date on the property related to the transition to it being a short-term rental? So the applicants provided all the information to me in a timely manner. We've had a number of correspondence going back and forth. They had answered all of my questions. And what I found was that currently, because the lot is vacant, and this is in the Beechwood Bluffton neighborhood, there's no active permits on the property. But the property owners have been going through the process of preparing to get permits, and I do think that's important to acknowledge. So there is costs that they've incurred in that process, but to date, no active work has been done physically on the property. The timeline that they're looking at is to start construction in the late summer of 24 and hopefully to have construction completed in 25 for the summer 25 season. So I was basing the denial on the fact that that there wasn't active work on the property at the time, no permits, and they've owned the property for a number of years. So based on those criteria, there was the denial. In the denial letter, I also provided them with information on the appeal process, which is to the commission. There is no specific direction from the staff on how to move forward with this, but I do see, I would recommend that you have a discussion and then determine how to move forward from there and avail the applicants of an opportunity to speak as well.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Before we invite the applicant up to address the commission, I will welcome questions for Mr. Manager on this item at this time. Commissioner Kilgo?
Yes, so the applicants are willing to pay this year's short-term rental fees and prices, even though they haven't started.
So there wouldn't be, if they were to submit an application, there wouldn't be anything to inspect at this point, and that's what triggers the fee. Would be if there was something to inspect.
So we can hear from the applicant themselves, but to what your feeling was when you got the appeal, is that they would like to get their property approved now so that it stays in the approved bucket kind of thing?
That would be my understanding, but I would defer to the applicants for to be able to respond to that question, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, I may have some more questions after we hear from you.
Okay. Any other?
I did.
Commissioner Cochin.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly from the city manager's perspective. So the property has been owned by the individuals for a long time. They've been doing some process for permits to improve the property. How can they do that when it's vacant?
So the property was purchased in 2001.
21.
Sorry, 21. I do that all the time. 2021. I don't know where the last 20 years went. It was purchased in 2021, and in 2021 there was a soil and erosion permit that was issued. That permit has since expired, and to date, what they've done in preparation for the construction is work with architects or engineers to get things ready to start to move into the construction process, but there's no active building permits issued by the city for the property.
Okay, and then just to understand, and I'll also talk to the homeowners themselves as well, but from your understanding, this home is being built solely for a short-term rental, is that correct?
It will be used as a short-term rental, but I believe it's also their intent to eventually live there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Any other, Commissioner German?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And to the city manager. Okay, no permits was pulled right at the time, but then, if I heard you correctly, there was a process of getting permits.
There was a soil and erosion, permit that had been issued in November of 2021.
Yep.
And that would have, a critical dune permit as well. Mm-hmm. Those have since expired since 2022.
So what you say now, knowing that they had good intentions, or?
Oh, I think they definitely have good intentions. Okay. Yeah, there's no. Yeah, I wouldn't question that. No.
Okay, and they went through the proper process of appealing, and that's why they're here.
Correct.
Okay, and then I would like to hear from them as well.
All right. Welcome the applicants. Yep, please step up to the podium and introduce yourselves.
You can come. Hi, I'm Dr. Lee Wetland, and I just want to give a little bit of a timeline of what we've done, because I think there's been a little misunderstanding. We bought the property in 2021. The reason the permits were pulled at that time is we wanted to make sure we could build on that land before purchasing it. So we got the critical dune piece, we got the soil and erosion piece, we had a survey done. I don't think.
But we also have a blueprint that we were working with at the time. But since we decided to change that and move to a simpler blueprint, so that also was part of the process to involve a local architect to help us with that. And we had the blueprint, but we decided that it was not the appropriate type of building for that, and also.
In 2021, we were not in a position our intention was to build on it at some point. We were excited about the lot coming on the market. My parents live down the street. We hope to build close to them and use it as both an income property as well as something that we could visit with our family. My husband, Carlos, went on March 11th, prior to the moratorium, to ask for the short-term rental license because, as Commissioner Kilgo said, we were hoping for some sort of assurance that the moratorium would not result. We've followed the discussions, and it's everything from, the police can't be called. We're on board with that. We don't want to build to have it trash. We are completely, in line with that and not concerned about that being an issue for us. However, if there is something passed after this moratorium around density, you can only have so many rentals on a block, et cetera, we're designing a home, putting a lot of money into it in order to build something that may not be approved after the moratorium is lifted. So that was our sense of urgency. We were told without something to inspect, we can't have this short-term license. So we're rolling the dice. We've invested in architects. We've invested in plans now twice. We had a $2,000 tree taken down on the property in preparation for construction to start in August. So we have intention to build. This was kind of our timing. Our concern, or what we're hoping for, is some assurance that once this moratorium is lifted, we'll be able to build a short-term rental.
Of course, passing all the necessary requirements of the inspection. Of course, we believe that given that we made all this investment prior to the moratorium, we're hoping that we can be grandfathered in a way that we could, if passed the requirements of the inspection, we will obtain license so that we can proceed forward to rent this out.
Not that it matters, but we hope to be good neighbors, and we have heard some of the concerns. As we mentioned, we have full intention to comply with noise ordinances. We are not going to have people selling drugs out of the back of the place. We're going to give our business cards and contact information to the neighbors. We have gone around and already introduced ourselves to the neighbors that are immediate to the parcel, and as mentioned, I don't want a party street for my parents to have to deal with, so we certainly and it's a new lot, so we're not taking over housing and making it into a short-term rental. This is a vacant lot. That's the deal.
Thank you, Ms. Wetland. Thank you, Mr. Pava. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicants at this time? Commissioner Kilgo.
So you mentioned that you switched architects and you're using a local architect now. Is your intentions to use local contractors to build the property?
Yeah, so that's the other piece is we have two builders that are spending their time and energy giving us quotes on materials. That's in process currently.
Yes, they are local here. They are local.
Thank you. And then to verify, you all went and applied for the permit before this body voted for the moratorium, but you were told no because there's nothing there to inspect.
Yes, it was interesting because at the moment, actually, when I completed the application and I submitted even payment and everything, is when the representative recognized that we didn't have a building to inspect. She actually was going to give me a date for the inspection, and I explained. She said, "Well, then we have to retrieve that and return your money back." So.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
So, I think we got two different answers. Can you please confirm for me that you are not intending to live in this home?
Eventually we may. We're hoping two pieces. One is that it will serve as a short-term rental income property for us, as well as staying in that space ourselves with family on vacations. Eventually, when we retire and do our thing, our hope is to potentially move there.
But you're part of your, I'm sorry, I'm reading an email that you sent to the city manager saying that we have what we believe is an appropriate and beautiful home intended for short-term rentals, so that you understand the things we have considered. With a short-term rental, there is no need for large walk-in closets or expansive kitchens. So you're intending to build a home without closets or an actual kitchen and then move into it?
No, it's not without a kitchen or without closets. It's just if you're building for living long-term or for long-term like the idea of building it and then selling it to someone, we would put walk-in closets. We would put a larger kitchen.
Right.
We're hoping that when we get to that place in our lives, should we decide to move here long-term, it would either be something that we would downsize, adapt to, whatever. We have closets in the house as well as a kitchen. It's just not as expansive as you would build in a house that you're living
Because
year-round.
it's specific towards a short-term rental and not a primary residence. So then that would tell me that your intention is to not live in the home.
When we get to retirement, our hope is that we live here in the summers. We leave in the winters, like many people do. We spend some time in southern places. So, large storage units, that type of thing is not really a lot of storage for us to put other things in if we need to.
Commissioner Cochin.
Yes. So I think you guys have done an excellent job of sharing your plans with us, and we appreciate you. I know it's not easy to walk up to that podium and talk, so thank you for coming up and speaking with us tonight. One of the questions I wanted to know was, is it going to be a financial hardship for you guys to build and to not use it as a short-term rental? So instead, shifting plans and using it as a long-term rental.
Well, I think that undercuts our want to share it with friends and family as well. Like, we would like to stay there for periods of time, stay there for a month in the winter, let friends use it, maybe use it in the summer as well. So I think the hardship that it creates is partially that it doesn't fulfill what we're hoping that this will allow for us to do. And then absolutely there's an income piece to it that
One more follow-up question to that same note. So, to make it a primary residence then versus a short-term rental, it's the income that you guys are looking to get as for the property, right? Is my understanding correct? And that making it a short-term rental versus a primary residence allows you guys to rent it out for short periods of time to supplement your income, and then utilize the home when you would like to. Is that a good understanding? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Do you have any questions for the applicant, Commissioner German or Commissioner Gorman?
Thank you for, again, sharing your information and coming in front of the commission. You stated you've done all the necessary requirements to move forward, and you invested, from what I hear, significant amount of money into this project that you want to see come into fruition. If approved, what would be the timeline for your completion of your home?
We're hoping to start construction at the end of July, beginning of August. We're hoping that starting next spring, it will be available for our use and also for the use of the rental.
Okay.
That will be in the spring of
2025. Okay. And this would more or less, like, through the years, it'll be a summer home when you come back, and then travel like you said most people do. I mean, I don't, but you know.
It's a few years down the road for us as well.
Maybe one day I'll get there, but I'm working on it. But yes. Let's see. Just give me 1 second here. Okay. No, I have no other questions. You pretty much answered all the questions.
We spent a lot of time in Muskegon.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a lot of time in our parents' house. But we also have 4 children that are coming also we will be coming with families. So also in a way, we're kind of foreseeing what the future will be like for all of us to come to Muskegon, spend time with our parents, but also bring the kids with their families, and that's also part of the thinking about this property.
And that's important, family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Follow-up?
Yeah, one follow-up. Not to get in your business, but you've invested the property sale alone. If you want to disclose, you can, but you bought the property, the vacant property, which a vacant property in that neighborhood's more expensive than houses in my neighborhood. You have the architects have cost you money, correct? And then the permit and the soil testing cost you money. And then you said you removed some trees or did a few things on the property.
Yeah.
So you're already invested in this property quite a bit. So if you have another full-time resident somewhere, so that's a mortgage, and then this would be a mortgage in building this property. So would you say that you'd use the short-term rental income if you were to be approved and get the short-term rental approval, you would use some of that income to help pay for the second house?
Yeah, we are not in a position of building a second house for ourselves.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
I have a question for staff. I don't know that.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time? No? Thank you. Vice Mayor St. Clair.
So, City Manager, can you clarify for me? Because it seems like this is more than just like we would be permitting a building that does not yet exist. Does this happen in any other situation? Like, do we permit businesses that don't yet exist in any other situation? Is there precedent for this?
So I guess if you were looking at like a PUD or some type of special land use, there is steps that a property owner could take prior to construction that would be, I think, equivalent to what you're asking for. And council, would you?
Yeah, I guess the other situation would be on a legal non-conforming if they bought it and with the intent to build something conforming, but before they actually built it, it became non-conforming. Then generally the courts look at what all did you do, and normally what the court looks on is not did you plan to construct, but
Right,
were you
did you do
constructing?
it?
Were you turning? Had you already started turning dirt? Already putting up walls, et cetera, et cetera. That's the closest analogy that I think we have from any historical perspective.
And I guess from the special land use, to kind of give you an example, in some communities, like drive-through restaurants require a special land use, so you would go through that approval process prior to construction starting.
So this is generally something for a commercial process, not a residential. Is that
I'm trying to think of.
or
I mean,
a large scale apartment complex or something outside of what is generally zoned for that? I just want to understand how far outside of our normal scope we would be going if we approve this. How many steps we're bypassing to permit a short-term rental license for a building that does not yet exist while we're in the middle of a moratorium. Is there precedent for this?
I think as far as is there precedent for this, I would say no, because we haven't done a short-term rental pause before.
Right.
Are there things that are similar to? I probably the answer to that would be yes. So specifically for residential single family, unless it was in a I'm trying to think of a Mike's probably not here. I'm trying to think of a zoning district that the SLU, a special land use, would be the practice to get a single family home. Speaking, he shall appear. Do we have any zoning districts where a special land use would be issued for a single family home, or some type of exemption, or? I think you know what I'm trying to ask.
I don't believe so. Single-family homes are usually a use by right whenever they're allowed. So, and this parcel is zoned R1, correct?
Yeah.
So we would not be disallowing them to build a single-family home. We would be, if we don't approve this, we would be not promising them they could make it commercial use of a single-family home. Is that a fair distinction?
Yeah, so there's nothing that's stopping the construction of a home on this property. It's zoned properly for that. What the applicant is asking is that if they go through that process, depending on what our final outcome is on this short-term rental project, do they have an assurance that what they are building the property for can be used for that purpose, is my understanding.
And it wouldn't necessarily preclude commercial use, because it could be a home could be built there and do a long-term rental. This is simply just a question of whether short-term rental is allowed there, but it could be built and turned into a long-term rental. In the meantime, any follow-up before we move on? All right, Commissioner Kilgo.
Mr. Manager, could you go over the 3 criteria again for the appeal that you had?
Yep. Also, thank you, Director Franzik, for coming back in. The property was in the process of being purchased at the time the pause went into place, and what we're saying there is, as far as when the offer is accepted, the objective with that was that if there was a active if a property was actively being purchased, we didn't want to be the reason that the purchase didn't go through because of that vested interest.
And this property was bought in 21, so that was,
Yep.
already bought. Okay. The second one?
Permits have been issued for work to build or update the property. So in this instance, there were not active building permits on the property. So the way that the way that this one's been looked at was permits on the property, active construction, or if there's been other work that's been done on the property to update it, because sometimes some of the updates don't require permits, but there's been significant investment by the property owner. And I'm not in, yeah, so that's what that one is. And then the third one is work completed to date on the property related to a transition to it being a short-term rental. And full disclosure, in my mind, when this was being developed, it was looking at property that had a structure on it already. I wasn't contemplating necessarily this type of a situation.
We all know, the commission knows, when the moratorium ends, this will be back up in front of us. We don't know which way we're gonna go yet, and it'll end 5 months from now. But because, like you just said, it is a vacant lot compared to a lot that already had a home on it, they would have been unable to pull permits. But have they invested money in the property? I think they've shown that they have invested money, removal of trees and the testing and stuff, and then work completed to date. Working with an architect, I know, in real estate can take a long time, because they bring you a thing, no, change this, they go back, see them again for 3 weeks. So sometimes that can take a long time, but I would say that that's working towards what they need to do to get it built, because a contractor's not going to stick a shovel in the ground if they don't have the drawings from the architect. So we do need to keep in mind, have they, compared to a vacant land, been making progress towards building this? It is a little bit different than if it had a structure on it already. So
yeah.
And then point of order, would we need to make a motion to approve this or make a motion to deny it?
That would be the pleasure. Any of the 6 of you may make a motion to deny the appeal or essentially approve the appeal and
Issue
overturn
notice,
the manager's decision.
And as we've stated in other things, we do the pleasure of the commission. So
for sure. Well, I don't know if there's any more discussion. I'd like to make a motion.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
You can make a motion. We continue to have discussion, but because
I was just going to ask city manager.
Well, I'm sorry, Commissioner Cochin had something as well.
Go ahead.
Did you want to chime in right now?
Well, I agree that it looks like they already owned the property, and when we drew all that stuff up, we weren't thinking about vacant lots and building short-term rentals. So it's kind of a different situation, and it looks like that, while they don't have active building permits right now, like Jay said, they've done work towards doing that already, and they did do their due diligence to go to try to get the STR permit ahead of time. And obviously there's no work done yet. I do have some concerns though about just building homes only as short-term rentals and not primary homes. That's, a big thing that I've said throughout my run is, I want to see our residents helped, and, building something that doesn't make it possible to be a primary residence kind of concerns me. But it does feel to me like they've done a lot of work on this, and so I just kind of am weighing all of the options in my mind, and I kind of wanted to know what the city manager thought about, I don't know if this is the appropriate time for this or not, but, do we need to change our verbiage in regards to like the vacant lots and everything?
So I guess maybe I'll give a little bit of context to what I was thinking when I was doing this review. We have a pause in place so that we can evaluate how we want to handle the short-term rental conversation going forward. And the pause criteria was based on things that were active in process that from my mind could potentially harm the property owner during the pause. And this type of situation didn't come to mind. But looking at all things being equal, because the timeline on construction would be after the pause would expire, and there's not a current structure there, I didn't see how, as the manager, given the fact that there was a pause in place, I had the flexibility to issue an exemption in this case. The other cases where I've issued exemptions, and I've been very favorable towards the property owner, like if they've been doing updating to the structure that exists and they can show me receipts and things like that, I've done that. Because the structure is not physically there, I felt for me that was, as an administrative function, that was a bridge too far. And so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes, thank you. Manager Cypress, that was my question I was going to ask you, but I will follow up on that because I want to get your thoughts on now that you see this from this angle. With your decision probably would have been more considering of, this is something that maybe the commission you may decide to approve or then decline. And I think hearing what I'm hearing from the citizens here, my first question was, they were acting with good intentions, and I think they've proven that, and spent numerous amount of dollars to move forward, and as Commissioner Kilgore, with his expertise in real estate and dealing with architects and the timelines, I think it all pretty much makes sense to me, and so I'm just waiting to see what the commission thinks. And by this being new, and we've never been at this point where we had to vote on short-term rentals with a appeal. I could see some wiggle room here, that given the information that was presented to me and the commission, to make a good sound decision moving forward, and even actually ruling in the favor.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Question, Mr. Manager, and perhaps we might need to get confirmation from the applicant as well. But your write-up has indicated it's been established as a vacant lot in the 1st of 2021. There are no active permits on the property. There had been permits in the past, but those have expired. It mentions critical dune permit, building permit, soil erosion permit. those each have dates, November 2021. Is that when the permits expired, or that's when the permits were pulled?
That's when the permits were issued.
So they were issued in
yes.
November 2021, and it says no work has been completed on the property to date, aside from what we heard of tree removal. So no work as a result of the critical dune permit, building permit, or soil erosion permit has been completed or initiated. And did the state? So the state did issue that critical dune permit for work in the critical dune area.
Yes, and I believe that's why they went through that permit early in the process, was to determine that it was a buildable lot from that perspective. And at that point in time, that was a permit that got issued through Mike. Through Director Franzik. So we did have a record.
Oh,
of
that was
that.
before we.
Yes. Yeah.
Gave it back to the state.
Yeah, it was before we gave it back to the state.
To issue critical dune permits.
Mm-hmm. So that was a planning step. It was not a lack of follow through step. But again, from the way that I was looking at it, without a structure being there as the administrator, given the pause, I didn't think I had the flexibility to do that.
Yeah, so. And given the policy that was established, and given the moratorium policy that the commission approved, and the guidelines for the process to appeal and what criteria you look at for exemptions, I'm of the mind to concur with the manager's judgment in this situation. And we'll see what shakes out as we move forward with policy. But that's my opinion, and the commission will vote its conscience and decide how to proceed. I do echo Commissioner Cochin. This is more of an aside. It's not something that we can necessarily force. It's you're a property owner. You can build as you please within code. But I do have some reservations hearing of a house being built with the intention of short-term rental and being structured in such a way to accommodate short-term rental, not long-term living. It undermines longevity of that property as housing, in my opinion, versus being a investment property. But that's more of an aside. I just want to acknowledge that I was saying, and I do have some concerns or reservations in that regard. But it's not something that I think we can force them to add larger closets or bigger kitchens or make it longer term. If this is how they want to construct their property, that's how they wish to construct their property. But it could be used long term if they want. So I don't see us, this isn't inhibiting development of this property. It's just saying right now it's not suitable for short term rental given the existing moratorium. But those are my thoughts. And Commissioner Cochin.
Can we ask them one more question or no?
Sure. We do need to wrap this up, but yes.
All right, last question.
Because we have several more items to go. Question.
So I just wanted to touch base with you guys. So just to confirm, you're going to have closets, like you said. You're going to have
do you
kitchen.
have the plans? And because we did submit the plans, so there's 3 bedrooms, 3 closets. It's a house that I can't imagine anyone wouldn't want to live in. We're not packing it full of 1,000 people. That is not our intention. Our intention is to share this with small families, maybe a couple of friends that would come together as couples. It's not going to have people hanging out every corner of the structure.
But I think that the thing is that for now, what we're thinking in terms of the rental and the fact that we're going to be there for short periods of time, we're not going to initially build large closets. We're going to have closets, yes, of course, because every room is but it's not going to be the type of closet initially for a permanent use. However, the space is there and everything is there for us to modify that closet any way we want. Every room is pretty good sized room, and it's very easy for us to modify the closet. That's pretty much the only thing that I can think of in terms of the modification that will need to be made to make it known somebody wanted to live there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you guys do or do not plan on living there part of the year? Initially.
Initially, we plan to visit and spend long periods of time. We're both remote workers. We both have the capability to stay. So my intention would be in the less desirable rental seasons, fall, winter, some spring, for us to spend time there.
And do you have a property manager who's going to be managing this for you?
Be doing that ourselves.
When you're not on site?
Yeah.
No, we're gonna do the hours.
We live just an hour away. And my parents, as I mentioned, live down the street, so they have eyes on as well.
Okay, thank you.
And the plans are up on the screen. For
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the first.
Oh.
This is the first house that we were originally going to build. And we decided to. It was too ambitious.
Okay.
For what we wanted.
Okay. Okay.
That's my understanding too.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment that, approved or not approved, the state of Michigan is working on legislation around short-term rentals, which it's still in committee. It's not been brought to the floor or anything, but it would basically nullify local jurisdictions, and as far as moratoriums, we could set zoning for it, but it would nullify moratoriums, but local municipalities would have to do, we would have to set limits and zones and stuff like that. So whether it's approved or not approved, we are working on what we're going to do when our moratorium is done, and there may be an opportunity for you to apply next year, or once you get the building done, or when the moratorium's lifted, or any of that too. So don't be discouraged. But I would like to make a motion to approve the application for 1450 Nelson and nullify the denial from the city manager.
Support.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Kilgo, supported by Commissioner Gorman. We've discussed this considerably. If you have a desire to concise comment before we go to vote, we will welcome that. Commissioner Gorman.
Well, concisely say.
You do not need to be so concise because you've been silent throughout this conversation.
I do just want to say I believe that our city manager correctly followed the procedure that some of the commission voted in favor of as far as this pause. The reason I'm supporting overturning the manager's decision is because after conversation today, seeing the communications between the manager and the owners, I do feel like there has been significant investment on their part to indicate that they are interested in moving forward with this project. In concurrence with, I can't tell you what the future holds. I wish I could tell you what all 7 of us would agree upon after this pause is done. So that gives me concern in that I can be sympathetic to the position that you've eloquently explained to the manager, where you stand of not knowing what the future holds. And so that is why I'm voting in favor of this.
Thank you, Commissioner Norman. Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you. I guess one last question would be, or comment. The dilemma is that there's nothing on the lot, more or less, to justify providing a permit, and that's why it was declined.
to justify the short-term rental.
Right.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
If I jump.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is, I understand, is essentially because even if we overrule the city manager's determination, there's still nothing constructed there, so they cannot seek a permit. But by overruling the city manager's judgment on this, it's essentially giving them the legacy right to develop a short-term rental there in the future, even if the city commission were to subsequent to our moratorium or concurrent with the conclusion of our moratorium, that even if our policy at that time would preclude a short-term rental property there for whatever reason, whether it's a cap in that neighborhood or proximity, whatever reason, if our forthcoming policy were to preclude development of a short-term rental property or licensing of a short-term rental property there, they would have the legacy right because they've gone through this route and they've sought an appeal to the manager to preserve their right to do a short-term rental there in the future, even though they're not in a position to get a permit now or get any level of inspections now.
Okay, thank you for the explanation, Mayor. And given the fact that, okay, we see some drawings and the citizens making the proposal came in front of the commission and with good intent investing in the possible development of the property and explain exactly and being, I would say, straightforward and direct exactly what the use would be for, I can respect that. And whichever way this goes, I just want you to know that, well, that I think they're acting in good faith, and I can respect that.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Final thoughts over here?
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
So I think we put the moratorium in place for a reason. This proposed build would either not even be started or would just be barely beginning by the time we intend the moratorium to be lifted. I have concerns about the precedent that we're going to set if we do vote yes on this. I imagine that there are a lot of other people who have purchased properties with the intent to turn them into short-term rentals that are going to come through now. If we open this door, I think it will go a long way towards negating the purpose of the moratorium, which was to give us time to be thoughtful and planful. And the point of this request is to go around that. And I completely understand why the property owners have that desire. They have made an investment. And I am certain that they are not the only one who has made an investment, because that is why we voted on the moratorium, because many people have come into the community to make that investment. So I am not unsympathetic, but I also understand that we have less than 5 months. What are we at? 4.5 months of this moratorium left. There is no build. There is no property to permit. I don't know why we would give this set of property owners first place in line over however many people already have properties as well that they were intending to convert into short-term rentals. I know I've heard from quite a few. Good intentions are good intentions, but what makes this property eligible for something that we're not giving anyone else? And I'm not convinced that the investment that has been made gives them a place at the front of the line. You know, there was very clear 3 points that we were asked to look at. They did not meet most of those points. I think the city manager took a great deal of thought and approach this very carefully and deliberately. And I appreciate the motivation to go ahead and do an appeal to get at the front of the line, but I'm not convinced that there is a reason why this particular property deserves the place at the front of the line just because they asked first. Because there is no property. There is no thing to permit.
Thank you, Vice Mayor St. Clair. Final thought?
Yeah, quick question for the manager. Have you approved any appeals since the moratorium went into effect?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. My final thought is, and I've already explained this, so I'm just going to say it very succinctly. I concur with the manager's judgment on this, while expressing my appreciation for your interest in investing in Muskegon, and ultimately wishing to reside here at some point in the future, if not visit regularly. Thank you. Now, the motion is to award a permit and overrule the denial of the permit by the city manager.
Which will be a vote yes to overrule it.
Yes to overrule, no to concur with the city manager's judgment. Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Wait, what is the motion? Sorry.
I
was fine until.
It's to approve the exemption.
Yes. So yes to approve, no to concur with the manager's.
Yes, sorry.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
No.
Mayor Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
I'll send an updated letter.
All right. Recreational easement agreement, City of Muskegon and Holy Trinity Church of God in Christ for Joe Clifford Park. Welcome, sir. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, Kyle Krachewski, Director of Parks and Recreation.
All right, Commissioners, so we may proceed. May I have a motion?
Yes, I move to authorize staff to enter into the recreational easement agreement with Holy Trinity Church of God in Christ at 2140 Valley Street.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Gorman, supported by Commissioner Kilgo and Commissioner German simultaneously. Welcome, Director Karczewski. Care to report out on this item?
I do. So we currently have a lease agreement with Joe Clifford Park, which is, it's a park, but it's a little complicated. So it's in the East Muskegon neighborhood. It's connected to the Church of God in Christ. And so we have a lease on the park equipment that was established in 1996. So it's their property. We put a playground there. However, they maintain, and the property is theirs. That agreement goes till 2026. And last year, due to the playground quality and shape that it was in, it was almost 30 years old. We decided to rip it out. And in order to reinvest in the park, we wanted something that was a little more inclusive of a higher level of maintenance that we will have on this property. It also gives us, what we're proposing, this new agreement will also give us a recreational easement to cover some parking lot in a larger area, and it would run with the land. So I guess the short story is, before we make a $150,000 investment of a new playground, we want to make sure that we have the forward thinking of pretty much locking in this property, and regardless of what happens to it, we are confident that it stays Kojic, but anything can happen 10 years from now. If it were to be purchased, that investment would be wiped out, the playground would be gone. What this does is this locks in that our agreement runs with the land, and that it will be an established park and it runs perpetually, which means forever and ever, or until we decide to cancel that. So yeah, I think that's the gist of it. It does add to our maintenance, add to our acreage of parks that we take care of, but at the end of the day, it was still a playground. There is still a City of Muskegon Park sign right there. So even if we weren't the ones who were physically taking care of it, it still reflected that we were. So
this is just kind of codifying reality.
Codifying reality and we are excited to put a new playground there and make the investment there. But this would be the legally binding document that the city would like to be more comfortable to make that investment.
Thank you, Director Karczewski. Commissioner Gorman, you made the motion. Do you have anything to ask or share at this time? All right. Commissioner Kilgo, anything to add or ask?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is the easement on the north side of the building or the south side of the building? Do you
If we
know?
scroll down, they'll show, could you please, Ms. Clerk?
It's on the south side.
It's on the south side. Okay. Okay, I see it. I see it.
So yeah, so we have that pavilion area. So what it would include, say if something did happen with the organization, we'd still have parking, we'd still have the pavilion area. There's also a small splash pad in there as well that we would be able to keep as ours, and we do turn the water on and off every year there as well. We are in, we're already putting in some maintenance, and I guess to be real, it's there's always a liability concern when you're on property that's not yours, and this easement would make us more comfortable doing so.
Any other questions or comments, commissioners?
I'm safe.
Nope. All right. Thank you. Well, thank you for doing the legwork to get this now in legal alignment with what has been practice, and now reinforcing its use long term as a public park.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to roll call, did you have anything to ask Director Karczewski?
No.
It's on the
I
easement
read
for
it.
the Joe Clifford Park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin, Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, item C, ARPA allocations for Parks and Recreation capital improvements. May we have a motion?
Go ahead. Okay. I move to approve to formally allocate $4,500,000 from the city's remaining ARPA funds to be invested in Parks and Recreation capital improvement projects.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Cochin, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. You want to chime in on this, Mr. Manager?
Technically there's a report out for me, but then Kyle can be here to support me in what these dollars would be used for. But this is the formal allocation. We are required to do this by December 31st, 2024. But obviously our fiscal year starts in July, so we just want to make this formal that these monies, our remaining monies from ARPA, are allocated to Parks and Rec so they can continue to move forward with the projects that they have on their capital improvement plan. Which Director Karczewski could speak to, or anything additional that he would like to add.
Which we had approved at the last meeting, the capital improvement plan. So this is essentially, I'm just dovetailing what the city manager is saying. This is essentially just a formal step, formality. The city commission had discussed this previously last year. We had given tacit approval for the allocation of $4.5 million to Parks and Recreation. And now this is just a formal step. So any questions? Any further comments? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director. This was one item that I struggled with the allocation of ARPA grants. Because given the fact that parks aren't people and they were not impacted by COVID, although our parks do need some upgrades, and due to some of the damage playgrounds and things like that, I could see the logic of investing in parks. Actually visiting one of the schools that year, I visited Oakview School, and really just listen to the classroom, the children in the classroom about the playgrounds and the safety that they had concerns about. And at that time, Director Evans was the director. So that gave me a kind of change of heart, but I would have liked to seen more of these ARPA dollars invested in other areas. With that being said, I can support this, and I think we've done some things not like I would have seen them done in dollars allocated for other things, but we're at this time now, so I'm going to support this.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Any other thoughts before we go to vote? Commissioner Kilgo.
Yeah, just a question. So, again, we did approve this at our last meeting. Our dollars will be tracked as we go along. You know, Parks and Recs being new, we said, hey, this is what we think we're gonna, and I think I asked you this last time, this is what we think we're gonna spend money on. I just want to make sure that, okay, that project's really not going to work out, but we need this money here. This $4.5 million, which is a lot of money for the city to be transparent. When the fiscal year's over, or when the, by this time next year or by the budget time next year, we'll be able to say we've spent this amount of money on certain projects and this is where to kind of track the money.
Yeah, and Director Wills, if you would like, he can give you a very detailed explanation of the reporting that he has to do every quarter on how we spend these dollars. So it is tracked very well on where it goes, and we'll be able to have accounting of that.
Awesome.
So.
And we have a dashboard on the city's website as well, speaking to how the funds are spent.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Vice Mayor St. Clair.
So the city received just shy of $23 million in ARPA funds. And we are looking at a proposed allocation of 4.5 million of that. I think that while parks are not in fact people, parks are deeply important to people and to growing people and to elderly people and to our community in general. And I think out of a almost $23 million ARPA allocation, a $4.5 million investment is really quite paltry. And I'm only sorry we couldn't put more towards the parks. And I'm really excited to cement this so that we can move forward with doing some really, really long overdue improvements to some of the most disinvested properties in the city. You know, the park that we just voted on the easement for, I don't think most of the city has been to that park. It's really sad. And that is the only park in that entire neighborhood. So I'm very comfortable with this. Like I said, I only wish that we had been able to allocate a little more.
Never too late.
It's true. Well, it is because we've spent it all.
Yeah.
So this is the bottom of the pot. So
Agree.
Just a second. It isn't here. All right. I just want to okay. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't.
So it's not a formality?
I want to. Well, no, it is going to be a formality. I'm not going to go into every line item that we've invested ARPA dollars into. That is on our website. That is readily available. I do want to give some context or share that our investments in this $4.5 million investments in Parks and Recreation is not the only revenue going into Parks and Recreation by virtue of the ARPA dollars that have been committed, because we did use the ARPA dollars for the convention center, and as a result of that, we have secured naming rights revenues from the convention center as a result of our investment to wrap up the convention center in the end. And those naming rights revenues currently, and since they've been secured, and of course the commission's discretion to divert that, but right now it has been as a practice and an expectation going forward that those naming rights revenues are going into our Parks and Recreation from the convention center. Similarly, monies were used for the railroad right-of-way acquisition, and it's the expectation that brownfield reimbursement for the railroad right-of-way acquisition will also be going into Parks and Recreation. Again, that's the discretion of a future commission. Commissioner could change that. That is the present expectation. So I just want to give that a little additional context that some of these investments were strategic investments to unlock new and create new opportunities and development that makes our city's fiscal situation more sustainable long term, while also generating additional revenue streams to go into our Parks and Recreation. So just wanted to give that additional context. All right. Any final thoughts or questions as we vote on this formality? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Intent to establish PACE district and utilize Lehman Green, Michigan as administrator. These fine folks in the front row have been here so patiently throughout the entirety of our meeting. So that we may proceed, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve the resolution of intent and release the draft PACE program report to the public.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Kilgo, supported by Vice Mayor St. Clair. Welcome. The two of you would kindly introduce yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is John Wiley. I'm a senior counsel with Lean and Green, Michigan. I have my associate Megan Ross here, who's going to do a short presentation, and then we're open to answer any questions. Just to give you a tiny bit of information, this is the first step of a two-step process. So, if this pass, we are happy to be back throughout the process.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Welcome.
Not work going up on the screen.
All right, I'm just going to read it off to you guys if that's okay, and I can make it available to you after. It's just a regular kind of informative presentation. So, as John introduced me, I'm Megan Ross, our Communications and Business Associate. Our team at Lean and Green, Michigan is a 4-person team. We have Mary Freeman, who is our owner and director of outreach. We have Todd Williams, who's our president and general counsel. John is our senior counsel, and I am the Communications and Business. Oh.
There we go.
Yeah,
There we go.
Awesome. Okay, so PACE was established by the Michigan Property Assessed Clean Energy Act in 2010, and Lean and Green Michigan was established in 2012 as a public-private partnership. We currently serve 58 counties, cities, and townships within Michigan, and that comprises of over 75% of Michiganders. Then there's the map of our counties, and then the little dots are our cities and townships. So the problem that we ran into is that energy efficiency, water efficiency, and renewable energy projects tend to be expensive, and traditional financing tools require large upfront capital investment with slow long-term payback, and that provides little incentive for business owners to undertake these sorts of projects. So the solution is PACE financing, which allows property owners to voluntarily enter into a special assessment agreement, which can be repaid over the period of 25 years. So this offers local governments a free economic development tool. Property owners get 100% upfront financing with a fixed interest rate throughout the loan, and PACE lenders get the security of a property land created by the special assessment. It's kind of a look into all the parties involved within the PACE process. We have the property owners, the contractors, the local government, the lenders who are private lenders, and LAGM, and we coordinate kind of all the parties together. So some benefits of PACE financing: it's 100% upfront financing, up to 25% loan to value ratio, fixed interest rates, long-term loans up to 25 years, and the loan runs with the land. So if the property owner were to sell their property, the loan would stick with the land and be the responsibility of the next property owner. So qualified properties. Commercial and industrial properties qualify, so that's hotels, hospitals, restaurants, office buildings, senior livings, anything that is commercial or industrial.
Multifamily housings, 4 or more units, both market rate and low-income apartment buildings qualify. Agricultural properties, farms, wineries, and then nonprofits, houses of worship, private schools, co-ops, and more. Qualified upgrades is anything that is a form of energy efficiency, so lighting, HVACs, windows, EV charging, insulation, roofing. And how we kind of measure that is if you're instilling something into your property that will save you on a utility bill, that will qualify under PACE financing. We also offer PACE you can qualify for PACE using water efficiency systems, any sort of renewable energy, solar roofs, wind energy, geothermal. And then recently we added to PACE is environmental hazard PACE. So anything that you can use to mitigate harmful substances like lead or PFAS contamination, or anything that can be used to protect your property against severe weather. EV charging stations are also eligible under PACE financing. So these are the PACE amendments that were recently established in February of 2024. Property owners now have the option to waive the SIR and savings guarantee for projects, and for new construction projects are now required to be built above Michigan's energy code, but they no longer require a savings to investment ratio or savings guarantee. And then, as I explained a little bit before, it expands PACE to allow for the financing of environmental hazard PACE, so like I said, mitigation of harmful substances and resiliency on the property. Also, we had some exciting news at the beginning of this month. We were approved by HUD, so now if a project is backed by HUD, we're able to engage, and you can also have a PACE loan on that project as well, which opens up a lot more opportunities. This is a look into our market data. So since 2015, we've financed 79 projects with a private investment of over $284 million. And to the right is some of our savings. So you can see the kilowatt hours of electricity savings, metric tons of CO2 savings, the money saved by the property owners by using PACE, and the jobs that have been created. And that's all. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Ross. Thank you, Mr. Wiley. Appreciate you joining us this evening and speaking on this important initiative and opportunity for our community. Open it up to questions from the commission. Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes. Will we get a little green dot on your map?
Yes, absolutely.
I actually am glad to see this not available to like single family residents. It's the commercial buildings, it's the multi-units, 4 more units and stuff like that. Can you tell me a little bit about the lien, like how much, okay, they pay for my solar panels or they pay for my EV battery charging station or something. What kind of repayment is that? What kind of like repayment system? Is it a longer year payment system, or can somebody pay it off when they want to, or?
That usually is worked out with the lender, the payment terms.
Yeah, there's basically parameters for what's allowable, but then anything under that is able to be negotiated by the borrower from the lender. So what's allowable is up to 25 years, so long as the useful life of the installed measures is 25 years or greater. What's allowable is, what's standard, I should say, is 2 payments a year in line with a tax payment, fully amortized, equal payments over that 25 years. Now, beyond that, we often get the question of prepayment penalties and things like that. Most often lenders do have some sort of prepayment penalty that's a sliding scale, a certain percent for the first 3 years, a certain percent for the next 2 years, up to 10 years, and then it drops off, something along those lines, but that's all negotiable by the property owner with the lender.
Okay. And then can municipalities apply for these?
For a PACE loan?
Yeah.
No, it's unfortunately not. It's only available to private property owners. No government buildings qualify under PACE.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo.
That was my question.
Any other questions or comments from the commission this time? Nope. All right. Can't remember. Did we take a motion already?
Yes.
Okay. Thought we was not certain. Wrapping up a long night. Okay. Commissioners, we're gonna go to roll call.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So you'll be returning then for the public hearing on May 14th?
Sure will.
All right. Hopefully it will not be as long of a night, or we have the public hearing earlier for you.
Yeah.
So
Thank
thank you
you.
again for your patience and your work. Okay. Amendment to the zoning ordinance, 24-hour marijuana sales. So that we may proceed. Can we get a motion?
I move to deny the request to amend the zoning ordinance to allow marijuana retailers within the marijuana facilities overlay district to operate 24 hours a day.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Gorman. Director Franzik, could you please report out on this item?
Sure. So this request came from private business. It was the entity that owns the Grassy Knoll, one of our marijuana retailers. They requested to amend the zoning ordinance to allow anybody within the overlay district, any retailer, to be allowed to be open 24 hours a day. Currently, retailers are only allowed to operate from 8 a.m. until 12 a.m. in the city of Muskegon. We did a little bit of research on other communities that allow this. We did find that Kalamazoo and Portage are two cities that allow 24-hour sales. They don't have a lot of businesses that do that, but I believe there's at least one in each community. The applicant stated they would like to allow it for medical patients to be able to access their medicine 24 hours a day, for people getting off of second and third shifts to be able to purchase products then, and also for safety measures. They believe it would be a little bit safer to operate 24 hours a day. They already have security on site, but there have been various break-ins during closed hours throughout the marijuana district over the past couple of years. The Planning Commission ultimately recommended and unanimously against the proposal, so it did not pass the Planning Commission, but it is here tonight, and I believe we do have the applicant as well. Questions?
Commissioners, any questions for staff? All right. Regardless of whether commissioners have questions for the applicant, I'm going to call up the applicant because they have petitioned for this and paid for this process, and they were heard at the Planning Commission, and I want to give them an opportunity to be heard tonight as well. So if the applicant is in the room, in the audience.
I don't believe they're here tonight.
Oh, they're not here.
No.
Oh, I thought you said they
I
were.
wasn't sure if that was them in the back.
Oh, okay. I was like, I've not seen the applicant here, so unless they're hiding behind the column.
No.
I was like,
I don't
do
believe
have a
they're here.
question.
okay. Commissioner Cochin.
So I was going to ask the owner this, but one of the things that kind of comes to mind for me is, you know, my dad worked at Myers, and he can't allow people to come in and purchase alcohol after a certain time. And was that discussed at all during the Planning Commission?
It was. There was thoughts of maybe making a recommendation towards aligning it with alcohol sales.
Mm-hmm.
They ultimately decided not to. I believe there was one other option maybe somebody brought up.
Well, also as far as alcohol sales go, there's state law regulating no sale between 2 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
The state law on pot sales is silent, so therefore by default it's available 24 hours. Yeah.
Right, I understand. Yeah, I think I would be more in support of aligning it with the alcohol sales laws that are currently on the books.
Hey, Commissioner Cochin? Commissioner Kogo?
I think this is it's rhetorical, but if this were to pass, not every dispensary then has to be open longer. They can keep the same exact hours that they have, correct?
Correct.
No further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Kogo. Any other questions or comments at this time? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Director Francis, did I hear you say one of the reasons the push for this proposal was for patients to receive, what, medical?
That's what the
marijuana?
applicant stated on their application, yeah.
Okay, and then for those who work, what, second and third shift? Okay. And due to your observation with the, I guess, Kalamazoo local government or those dispensaries that operate there 24 hours, was there a report on crime or increase of patients or
I did get to speak briefly with someone from Kalamazoo. They noted that there hasn't been much of a change since the relatively short time that they've had this on the books, so they didn't really have a lot of data to share whether it really made an effect or not on crime or anything.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Any other thoughts or questions this time? All right. I'll just share that as a member of the Planning Commission, little insights into that or my thinking there, because it was unanimously decided by the Planning Commission to recommend denial by the City Commission of changing the zoning to allow 24-hour sales. I personally do not have concerns or reservations about the particular property where the applicant owns and wishes to have 24-hour sales. That's right off of Seaway. It is in an industrial, previously it was industrially zoned property, an industrial zone area, and it's isolated, and so it would not necessarily be a nuisance or problematic to residential area. However, the zoning change before us is blanket across the city. And I do have reservation concerns about that. There was discussion about aligning it with the state law on liquor sales to allow later operations, so 2 a.m. In a perfect world, medicinal marijuana could be sold in a pharmacy, and we already have 24-hour pharmacies, and so I could also see a rationale for us to allow medicinal marijuana sales 24 hours to align with 24/7-hour operations of pharmacies. I could also see the potential for allowing extended hours or maybe 24-hour operations if the cannabis or dispensary was within a close enough proximity to underlying zoning that already allowed 24/7-hour operations. But none of those things are in the zoning before us. It would be a blanket allowance of 24/7 operations of cannabis dispensaries anywhere not anywhere in our city. Anywhere it's already permitted to operate in our city. And so my opinion on that is the same it was as the Planning Commission. It is not appropriate to have 24/7 sale operations to any dispensary in our city. So, yes, Commissioner Kogo.
Point of information, the yes would be to deny?
Yes.
And no would be to approve it?
No. The motion is to deny, so if that is approved in the affirmative, it's done. If that is shot down, then it's an open question whether to approve. And so if there's no action to approve and voted in the affirmative by 4, it's the status quo.
Thank you.
So, but right now, the motion. I got that right. I don't know if you were making faces over there, and I'm like, wait. Okay.
So a yes is a no on the ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the motion is to deny.
Yeah.
If you wish to deny the zoning change, then it's a yes vote. If you wish to consider further allowing it, you could vote.
And point of information on that, Mr. Mayor, if we vote to not deny the request, and then we would go to a vote to potentially approve, could we potentially approve with conditions?
If this current motion is denied, then two members of the commission, one making the motion, one supporting, could make a motion to allow with conditions, as long as those conditions adhere to all applicable laws.
Okay.
I got that right? Yes. Don't want to be speaking out of turn now. Nope. You're giving misinformation. So, all right, unless there's any further discussion or questions, we're going to go to roll call on a motion to deny the rezoning to accommodate 24/7 sales of cannabis. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cochin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes to deny.
Commissioner Kilgo?
No.
Wait, say that.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Franzik.
Thank you.
All right. So this next item, I'm just gonna push to the next meeting. It is within the it is before the May 18th event in which this commission is being looked to being established. And given how late we are in this meeting and we still have a post session after this, I'm just going to skip this item and I'll bring this forward to the next meeting. So that said, we are now on to any other business. Commissioners, you have received. Just a second, let me pull up my email. All right, Commissioners, you have received a letter from the city manager dated yesterday with regard to management of our Hartshorn Marina, which is making known to us, the commission, that the city intends to and will be resuming management of Hartshorn Marina itself, and so that will be done in-house by our city staff at a future date. Notice has been provided to the existing manager, and that the city will resume management, will assume direct management of the marina by May 22nd, 2024. So I just want to give the commission an opportunity, since receiving that letter yesterday, if you had any questions that you wish to ask of the city manager, otherwise convey thoughts to convey to the city manager. If not, then we'll move on. Nope. Okay.
Oh, no, I thought Jay had a question. I'm sorry. I do have a question.
Commissioner Cochin.
Yeah, so I just want some clarification for the public. The city manager is denying, or not denying, I'm sorry, my brain's jello right now. The city manager is not renewing the contract with the current manager. Can you just real quick explain how that's going to affect our general citizens and the public?
So the agreement expired in February of this year, and administratively we decided that we had the capacity to bring the marina back into our management, and so we chose to exercise that option to do so. The way it will impact our residents, hopefully the folks at the marina aren't really going to notice much of a difference. It'll, the harbor master will be a city employee. That will be the biggest difference. So they'll report up through Kyle and to Dan through there, and then ultimately up to myself. So they'll be within our chain of command, if you will.
Okay. So the current harbor master is not changing? Or they are?
The harbor master is a city employee, so we will need to go through a hiring process like we would normally do for any city office. So
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. And I just want to say thank you to the city manager as well as our DPW staff on reviewing our options. This has been something under review for a little while, and looking at our capabilities and capacity to manage operations internally. And so I do wish to express my appreciation to our staff for looking at that and taking the necessary steps to move this project management forward of our Hartshorn Marina. I think it's a good for everyone concerned long term. So, any other items for any other business?
I just have one quick
Yes,
informational
Mr.
item. So the updated generation agreement for the solar rooftop at the arena, there was a slight change to the agreement, but it's a good change. It increases our reimbursement amount. So staff approved that as opposed to bringing it back because the rest of the agreement was the same. So yeah. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Anything else for any other business? Nope. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I can make a slight change, the next item on the, we got to do public comment first.
Yep, we got to do
Before
public
we-
comment.
I'm sorry.
Is there anyone in the audience? I don't have. Oh, I do have one slip. There's still time. Oh no, actually, I have two slips. I'm sorry. Oh, there's. I don't have your form, Bina. You're gonna speak during public comment? Yeah. Okay, I know you, and I adore you, but so I won't make you. Well, since we already heard from, typically my practice is let residents first, but we did hear from you during public comment, and this gentle. This gentlewoman in the back has been here all night, very patiently. So I'm going to acknowledge Amy Wilson from Muskegon Township. Thank you for your patience and perseverance. Welcome. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
My name is Amy Wilson. I founded a nonprofit called the Accessible Supportive Healing, or ASH Network, after my stepdaughter Ashley developed a heroin addiction and passed away from a fentanyl overdose last year. We provide cope kits to detox and early rehab programs, which are like big first aid kits full of coloring books and we're launching React next month, which is a support group for families and allies of people struggling with addiction. So parents who are trying to support people in active addiction who have lost. We're in the process of launching the ASK campaign, which is Addiction Silence Kills. And that's in the hope to combat the SUD stigmas and raise more awareness, get people talking about it. And we're raising funds currently now for a mobile closet. Excuse me. I've been connecting with a lot of community partners, and I can see the good work that is being done to get in front of the opioid epidemic. I'm aware of the opioid epidemic settlement funds, or the opioid settlement funds that have been made available to the city of Muskegon. And I'm wondering I don't know if I can ask the question, but what is the plan to utilize the current funds and future settlement distributions? I was told that there is a sizable chunk that's been sitting. I couldn't confirm that because I don't know where to look. I tried. But I don't want to see it sitting there if it could be used as a resource. Muskegon doesn't even have a detox. There's lots of opportunity.
I didn't want to interrupt your remarks, but
nope, that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. We appreciate you joining this evening. We appreciate the work you do, and my condolences on the loss of your daughter. To follow up on your questions, here is the city manager's business card, and so if you could follow up by phone or email to get some of the answers to your questions. You want to wait? You want to wait to the end, Ms. Vigna? Okay. Ms. Ann Vandermolen joining us from the city of Roosevelt Park. Welcome, and you have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Hi. Because it's Sexual Assault Prevention and Awareness Month, I just want to say that I have read in articles lately about Rebecca Blatch. I didn't know that she had a sex toy used on her. I thought that she was just, not just, but I thought she was killed on the side of the road. But apparently she was, probably abducted. So I don't know everything about what she went through and how she was killed, but what is it about men wanting to strangle women and children so much? Tracy Lorenz talks about strangulation over and over in his columns, and he says that turning off a remote control is like strangling someone. I can prove that. The people out in Hollywood are all upset because Brian Peck was pen pals with John Wayne Gacy. So was Tracy Lorenz. He wrote a column all about it. John Wayne Gacy was a pillar of his community. Everybody in the community loved him. While he was torturing, raping, murdering young men over and over. When one man got away, one young man, he said, "Don't go to the cops. They're not going to believe you." John Wayne Gacy was right. The cops didn't believe him. Over and over and over, one set of parents called the cops 100 times. Nothing was done. Tracy was pen pals with him. The same hands that opened those letters from John Wayne Gacy touched my body. If I would have known that, I would never have dated him. Shame on the Muskegon police for not taking my report more seriously 10 years ago. Rest in peace, Rebecca Bletch. No one should have to go through what she probably went through. Shade Robinson, a woman over in Wisconsin, her body parts are still being found on the Lake Michigan shores right now. We gotta find Jessica Herringa. Jessica waited on me at the gas station. The last time I saw her, I thought she was being held up. I froze outside of the gas station, but I finally thought, no, I gotta go in and see if she needs my help. I cared about her. She smiled at me that night, and I smiled at her. I'm tired. I'm tired of women and children being found in ditches and in woods. I'm tired. And I want the Muskegon police to know that they should have taken my report more seriously 10 years ago. I've had other women complain to me, and I've tried to talk to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vandermolen. Ms. Vinia Coleman, joining us from the Jackson Hill neighborhood. Welcome, and you have 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Okay. Hello. I came here to see the presentation about the civil rights movement that went through Jackson Hill. My mom's parents came up through Mississippi, and that's how we wound up here. My mom grew up on Ottawa Street, when the so-called Bottoms is where she lived until the highway came through, and then she wound up going to the Hikes. My thing tonight is I see all this building that's coming up, new houses and everything. The house I live in is 3 generational. It was my grandmother's, it was my mother's, and now it's mine. I think people who have been here for a long time, they need help in fixing their houses and stuff. We were here before the building, and we would like to stay here, but we need help fixing our houses up too. So while you granting all these people, breaks in building the new houses and stuff, think about the people that were here long before those people ever came. And one more thing, going back to that broker lady, y'all should fine her. That's just my opinion. That'll deter her from doing that ever again, because like the gentleman, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Gilgo, said, it should have been an opportunity for everybody. There are more and more people who are under the income looking for houses too. So my thing is, find her, slap a big juicy fine on her, and she won't do it again. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Vinia. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to give public comment at this time? Welcome, citizen Jake Ekholm, joining us from the Nelson neighborhood.
Indeed, 362 West Muskegon, but I'm not giving public comment on my behalf. County Commissioner Darrell Page was here earlier, and our meeting was long, and so I offered to cover the item he wanted to bring the commission up to speed on. So Muskegon County is having a recycling event this Saturday, April 27th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., and that will be at 1350 East Keating, just west of US 31, next door to our DPW. This is a special recycling event because it allows for types of waste that usually aren't accepted at many recycling centers. So scrap tires, hazardous wastes, including mercury, petroleum products, antifreeze, pesticides, herbicides, CFL and fluorescent light bulbs, and oil-based paint products are all acceptable. They must be in containers no greater than 6 gallons. And no latex paint is accepted. They also will be recycling electronics, including computers, peripherals, TVs, and other electronic devices. So yeah, it's weather permitting, but it is this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., again at 1350 East Keating.
Thank you, Mr. Ekholm. Anyone else in the audience wish to give public comment at this time? You wish to give public comment, sir? All right. Welcome, David Ruck, joining us from the McLaughlin neighborhood. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Thank you. David Ruck, 1604 Peck Street. I just want to say if the city is going to retake over Hartshorn. Sorry, I ran here. They should give John Digg Allen his slip back.
Thank you, Mr. Ruck. Anyone else wishing to give public comment at this time? Nope. We're going to go to the phones then. Calling numbers 231-724-6721. 231-724-6721. We'll give that a couple moments.
We do have a call. We have 2 calls.
All right.
Mr. John Allen. Let's see if I can get it to come up.
Patch through now. Is that Mr. John Allen?
Yes, sir.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for calling in from the Nelson neighborhood. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Just want to say thank you to Mr. Ruck for what he just said in support. There are obviously things going on with Hartshorn, but I just want to say above all, thank you for making the best decision for that park and that marina for in the past 5 years since it went under private management. I'm very excited to see it go back to direct city management. It was always such a high class facility, and it was always run at such an incredible standard that lived up to the name of Muskegon and the port city. So thank you to city manager, all those involved in looking at that objectively and coming to the agreement that it should be still managed under direct city control. So just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming to that conclusion. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Appreciate you calling in. Still got another call in?
There has been somebody.
Okay. We'll give another moment. If you tried calling, you can call
They're
again.
here, yep.
Oh, they're there?
Yep.
All right. Welcome to the City Commission public comment period. Please introduce yourself and what neighborhood you're calling from if you're a city resident, or what other township, village, or city you live in.
Sure, this is Leah Willett Leroy, 284 West Grand. Thanks for sticking it out tonight. I just wanted to quickly follow up actually on a comment that Commissioner Cochin mentioned earlier about cleaning up after burning foot and encountering a large amount of cigarette waste. So additionally, Jake mentioned that there is a cleanup event this Saturday for tires. There's also a cleanup event on Sunday. And what we have encountered is that the Alliance of the Great Lakes, the last 10 years, the highest amount of debris has been cigarette waste. So this past year, that was surpassed by plastics. Super exciting. But cigarettes is still number 2. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for our Parks Department to acknowledge cigarette waste in our parks going forward, and maybe consider a way to dispose of that on site. It's a little more visible. And then also inviting everybody to come out to the Watershed Partnership to clean up on Sunday, 8 a.m. CIO Hall downtown. We will be collecting a large amount of tires, and with the partnership of the county, we will be dropping those off at the Keating site. So that's a great partnership every year for Earth Day. Hope that some of you can make it out, or at least spread the word. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for calling in from Nelson neighborhood. So if you tried calling, you can try calling again. It's 231-724-6721.
There they are.
Hello, welcome. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, if you could please introduce yourself.
Hi, this is Linda from Nelson Neighborhood, and I'm calling to start awareness about this season's fireworks. I've been looking around, and it seems that cities and counties and even states from all 4 corners of the U.S. and in between, including Pennsylvania and Ohio, are putting together ordinances, bans, what have you, on fireworks not being allowed, law against to be detonated within 150 feet, which is about just under a third of a mile. anywhere within dwellings, including vehicles. So I think that would be a reasonable compliance for the city to put in place so that for the safety and comfort of not only people in their homes, but also for pets and animals that are sometimes subject to uh, nasty people's idea of fun. So would it be the city manager, Mr. Seifert, that I would contact about how we can put something like that in place? That's my comment, and perhaps you can answer that last question.
Thank you for calling in. You can follow up with an email to citycommission@shorelincity.com, and that will reach the city manager, as well as all members of the city commission and our city clerk.
Very good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, last call for phone calls.
Got one.
Oh, we got one.
Ron Beal is on the line.
Beal.
Ron Beal. Beal.
Veal. Oh,
V-E-I-H-L.
Veal. Hello, Ron. Veal?
Yeah. I just have a quick question. I know that we're trying to clean up blight in the city of Muskegon, and I understand that, and I appreciate that. I would encourage anybody to take a ride down Getty Street from our property line in the city of Muskegon down to Seaway Drive. And there must be 100 to 200 cars in some of these lots. And I mean, if you start at one end, start at Laketon and go down to the Seaway Drive, the cleanest lot in that stretch of road is actually at Sprague's Salvage Yard. Some of these other places have 50 cars in the lot with no intention of ever fixing them. They've been there for years. And I guess what I understand, it's called discretionary enforcement. I think we need to use our discretion and clean some of that up. It's a blight on the. That's a very busy road, and comments I get at my business are that it looks run down in the neighborhood. I get good reviews on and they want to come in, but then they get nervous when they drive down the road because there is so much blight on Getty Street. I think that we can encourage those people. I mean, I can tell you, I drive down there every day, and when you get down to Seaway Drive and you see a salvage yard that's cleaner than a lot of the businesses that are automotive businesses on that road, there's no reason for 50 cars to be in their lot that are with flat tires, hoods up, junk cars in the road or in the parking lot. I've lived with it for a long time, and I've wanted to call several times, and I just never have but it's really nothing's being done about it, and I see us tearing down homes and I understand that if they're a blight, but I mean, if my grass gets too long, I get a letter from the city saying they got to cut it or I'm going to get a fine. But yet all this stuff goes on, and I just wish somebody would take a ride through there and just see what it looks like. I mean, there's several thousands of cars that go down there every day, and it's one of our main thoroughfares, and I think it needs to be cleaned up. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all you do for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you calling in. No other phone calls. All right. Before we take the motion, I was remiss in not sharing this during any other business, but I'm going to do it very, very quickly right now, which is that Muskegon Public Schools is going to be having an open house for the new Charles Hackley Middle School next not this Thursday, but next Thursday, May 2nd, from 5:15 p.m. until 7:30 p.m. with the remarks and ribbon cutting at 5:30. And so there'll be tours and refreshments celebrating our brand new Charles Hackling Middle School. And so come on out and celebrate our new school. Again, that is Thursday, May 2nd, 5:15 p.m. So we've got a motion.
Actually, the motion, Mr. Mayor, is not to consult with the attorney on attorney-client privilege. Rather, is to consult with us regarding settlement strategy on a pending matter, and the Vice Mayor has the motion.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I move to go into closed session to consult with our attorneys regarding settlement strategy in connection with West Michigan Dock and Market Corporation versus City of Muskegon, Muskegon County Circuit Court Case number 22-3962-ZZ, because an open meeting would have a detrimental financial effect on the settlement position of the City of Muskegon.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. So we are going to go into closed session at this time. Oh, yeah, we got to do a roll call.
Yeah.
Please. Roll call, please.
Commissioner German?
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Gorman? Yes. Commissioner Cochin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo? Motion passes.
Thank you. So we're going to go into closed session. We'll be coming out of closed session subsequently and then voting to adjourn.
Sure.
So.